Man, we're 4 days away. We are 4 days away from the start of the National Football League season. Big Sills, and we appreciate you guys coming here as you do each and every single day. Thank you so much for choosing us. But as we always start the program out, Big Sills, we thank you guys a lot. No question about it. 4 days out to the start of training camp. Question marks. Expectations. I liked what I heard on Birds 365 with Xander and John McMullen. You know what I love about John? He does such a great job at covering the team, but he also does ask the questions. Have we overhyped the roster? The Eagles have tremendous expectations for that roster. And get this, I heard John also say something. I don't really think they care, Howie and Jeffrey Lurie, that the talent may not be as good on the roster as it's been in the last 2 years. The expectations are there. The money that's being spent is there. Let's F and G, dude. Let's F and G. It's time to go here. Real quick, before we get going into the topics, Jets are fielding calls from NFL teams. And most notably, what team do you think has reached out to the New York Jets and Joe Douglas for the availability of Hassan Reddick? What team do you not want that he ends up landing on? What would be the one team that you would not want Hassan Reddick landing on? Now, there is conversation they could bump his pay as well. Happy Friday to you too, Mad Dog. I appreciate it. Sills is trying to figure out who the random people I post in the chat. No, Mike, more the merrier. Dallas, Niners. One more, Washington. No, that's a good one, no. Any NFC team, okay? There you go, M. Reyes. The Lions. Brad Holmes, the general manager, according to my friend Chris Spielman, have kicked the tires on the availability of Hassan Reddick joining the Detroit Lions. Ace, appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you so much for coming aboard here. Hey, Sills, how you doing on this Football Friday? As always, we support you, my friend. With injuries to running backs, is it smart to steer them to be more pass-oriented, or is it like hurting players like Lindros? I think it's more to having the style of play like you see with Christian McCaffrey and a little bit here with Saquon Barkley being able to be a dual-threat running back. I think is conducive. That's why you see a guy like Austin Eckler and players like that, Cam Akers, and people that can catch the football, Alvin Kamara, players like that can be players that you – here's what you don't want to do, Ace. You don't want a $10 million football player that you have to take off the field on third down. You want your best football players on the field on third down, okay? So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you get the best people possible and if you're going to spend that kind of money too, make sure you get the right people, okay, on the football field on third down. That's your money down. Your money down is third down, okay? Maxon says Abner Hayes passed away, the former Kansas City Chief, one of the truly great football players in pro football history, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay? Absolutely fantastic. I want to throw something. Hey, by the way, real quick also, how about the way that they're off topic a little bit? Now there's conversations and people are talking about Bronny James being the rookie of the year, and there's odds actually on it. On Bronny James being the NBA rookie of the year. I saw that stat, and I know it's off topic, but I was like, and I heard conversation on it, and I was like, that guy doesn't belong in the league. He's a G League player at best. And now the media, it just shows you how ass backwards the media is and how they do shit and how they pick and choose certain people to cover, certain people to promote, certain people not to promote. The guy is a scrub. And they're talking about him like he's a rookie of the year candidate. He's a scrub. Unbelievable. Hey, before I get into another thing here, especially with the Lions here, I thought it was pretty cool at the RNC last night watching Dana White. And Hulk Hogan, I thought, was awesome as well. And what I loved about Dana White and why I love Dana White, the head of the UFC, that guy doesn't give a shit what you think of him. He doesn't care who you root for, who you vote for. He even told you, hey, man, I'm not here to tell you who you vote for or who to vote for. I'm telling you what I know. Okay, so he was coming from his own world. And I love that. That's the kind of guy I like. And that's the kind of guy that I resonate to. I like people that are their own people and stand on their own island and don't have to worry about what others think of them like that. You know, when I was younger in this business, I used to really give a shit what people thought of me. Now I could care less. I swear to you. You know, I posted something just a couple minutes ago, and people have always done this still on my Twitter page. They'll post racist or they'll do it in here. It don't work anymore. It just doesn't work anymore. When it's not true. Secondly, I don't care anymore. If you want to call me that, go ahead. It's all good. That's a you thing. You don't know me from a can of paint. How in the world could you even make that conversation about another man that you've never met? So I love that about Dana. And Dana helps me and has helped me get over that kind of stuff. I'm like this. I don't care anymore because I don't really hear it anymore. I don't. So when you call me that stuff, it's manufactured, it's made up, it's low-hanging fruit. I don't care anymore. And that's what that guy Dana White does. Those are men's men right there. That's a man's man. Those are the kind of guys you like, man. Those are the kind of guys that you want as leaders. I don't really care. People call me that. And now, back then it used to bug me. And I used to hide under my desk. Now I don't care. I'm like, whatever. You don't know me or my friends. It's just stupid. And then you see Hulk Hogan too. You know what Hulk Hogan was doing last night at the RNC? He's not afraid now to be a Trump supporter. It took an assassination attempt for him to come out and support him. Because you know why? He's a guy that wants to sell tickets to Republicans and Democrats. And now he knows, he's like, that assassination attempt made more people do this. When you hear people talking rhetoric about one particular party or another, I don't care who's the best guy for the job. Certain coaches are like that. I don't care what you think. Look at Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio doesn't give a shit what the Miami Dolphin players think of him. Vic Fangio's hired to do one job. You know what that is? Get the Miami Dolphins defense back then better, and now to come in here and fix the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Dan Campbell in Detroit has a lot to do with that. Okay? That's right. AT, no one's afraid of the rhetoric anymore. Nobody's afraid of it. Because it's fallen on deaf ears. No one hears that shit anymore. Because no one cares. Feels I support the realest mofo that covers our Eagles. Where do you draw the line to utilize player strength and still protect them from themselves? That's a great comment. I love that, Ace. And if most notably you're talking about Hurts, I think the Eagles are doing the right thing by trying to protect him and trying to get more length of career out of him with the way that they're trying to coach him. However, it can't be from the pocket. It's got to be the reverse. You got to coach him being a runner and protect him more with more limited runs. Now, that's why maybe Barkley was brought in here. Let me put it to you this way. How about this? If Jalen Hurts has 8 carries a game versus, say, 12 or 13 carries a game, and Jalen Hurts gets that number back up to 4, 9, and 5 yards a carry, Does it matter if Jalen Hurts gains 800 yards and 10 touchdowns, or does it matter every time he touches the football, he's a weapon? See, to me, it's more about impact plays than it is about volume of plays. I'm not looking to be Kirk Cousins or having guys stack up and pile up a ton of numbers. I'm looking at, here, the 2022 season for Jalen Hurts was more impactful. You know why? No turnovers, and everything he did led to that football team being a Super Bowl contending football team. Everything he did in 2023 helped limit them on being a Super Bowl contender. They were doing things that were unconventional to what they did in 22. That is completely different. His yards per carry, and every time he touched the ball running it, was down to 3.3. 2 years earlier, he was doing 6 yards a carry. Can you imagine a guy who can throw the ball for almost $4,000 and runs the ball 6 yards a carry every time he touches it? He is undefensible. Jalen Hurts is undefendable when you have a guy touch the ball and he's gaining 6 yards a play. And then he throws for 24 touchdowns? You can't defend that. It would drive a defensive coordinator insane if you were doing that shit. That is why I'm in the position where I'm at right now with him. And not really with him. It's how you're handling him. That's my problem. Again, I'm leaning more towards Jalen Hurts' frustrations than I am more so about having him not being able to play in this league. Jalen Hurts can play in this league. But are you going to get the maximum potential out of him? We know what the maximum potential is. We saw it in 22. There I agree with Xander. 22, you saw he can do it. And by the way, wasn't 5-game stretch, a 9-game stretch. We saw it all week. We saw it every week. We saw it every Sunday. We saw it in the Super Bowl. Can he do it? Hey, you know how you know it's not a fluke? He did it for 17 straight weeks, or 14, counting the 2 games that he got beat. Okay? Counting the 2 games, he got beat. Or he was hurt, excuse me. I've seen him do it. Now, again, the way they're handling him is a massive problem for me. Do I think that guy will get back to a Super Bowl the way they're trending him? Absolutely not. I want to show you something else about the Lions. God forbid they end up landing Hassan Reddick here. Let me show you something here. I went back and took a look at what Dan Campbell's doing with that Detroit Lions team. And I want to show you why they're trending in an upward pattern versus the Eagles trending in an upward pattern. How many people think that the Eagles are trending better right now than the Lions as an organization? What do you think? What organization right now is trending better, the Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles? Who's trending in a better angle right now, in your opinion? I can't believe the Lions OC stayed. You never see that. He won $17 million from the Commanders. Bruce says the frickin' Lions. Way to go, Bruce. I like that answer. Lions clearly. Big Sales Lions aren't winning anything. That's what Evan says. Pretty similar. Lions by a little bit. We need to prove more. Obviously, the Birds. Of course, Twiz. Well, since November 6th of 2022, the Detroit Lions are 20-7 in the regular season. And the Philadelphia Eagles are 18-9 since November 3rd, with the same amount of games played, 10 games. Last 10 games of the season in 22, they were 8-2. Eagles were 7-3 in 2022. You're 18-9 in the last 27 games. The Lions are 20-7. They are a tick above you. And they're the recent participants in the NFC Championship game. And they're consistently adding more talent to their football team. So when you say you have a better team and that you've played better than the Lions in the last 2 years, partially true. Okay? Partially true. But over the last nearly 30 games, they've caught you. They've caught you in the last 30 games. Okay? Like I said, RTF, in the last almost 30 games, they've caught you. They've caught you. Hard to believe that the first preseason game is August 9th against the Ravens. I'm looking forward to that as well. I have the feeling the Packers are going to have a slow start. Could be. Expectations are higher. Same thing down in Houston. Lions have to deal with the Packers. You have to deal with the Cowboys. They own you. Still don't get overhyped. Eagle is a better franchise. They still Lion don't get overhyped. Eagle is a better franchise. Yeah, I would say the Eagles are a better franchise. Yes. Last 25 years, no question. But again, no one gives a shit about 24 years ago. They care about 2024 right now. Texas is going to disappoint a lot of people. I don't think so. Okay? I don't think so. RTF Sills, you showing up to Eagles training camp? Are you kidding me? I'd have to watch that thing with a cherry picker from the outside. They'd never let a guy like me actually critique your team. Cowboys do give a shit. Lions and Eagles, NFC Championship game this season? I don't know. One of the teams. I want to show you something. I put this list together. I got 8 teams that are true Super Bowl contenders. You know why? Head coach and quarterback. Head coach and quarterback. This is a head coach and quarterback league today. Unlike it was years ago. This is a different NFL today. Okay? Let me show you something here. Who has the best combination of quarterback and head coach? And let me show you the similarities here before we get to the topics here. Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. Is that a good duo? Is that a good dynamic duo? I really don't think shit of Sean McDermott. I don't think he's the right coach for Josh Allen. I don't think so. So the quarterback combination doesn't work there. Could be one of the reasons why they don't go anywhere. How about Tua and Mike McDaniels? Led the NFL in passing yards a year ago. Has saved Tua's career. 2 1,000-yard receivers. Offense looks like it's, without a doubt, one of the top. I can't get my head around the fact that the Dolphins won't be in the conversation for a playoff team. I can't say the Dolphins won't be a playoff team. They're just too good offensively. If you guys like your offense, what's not to like about the Dolphin offense? They're just as talented as you. So they're a Super Bowl contender. Guy's one of the best play callers in the league. Tua, Mike McDaniels. Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. Is that a good duo? Absolutely. John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in pro football, and maybe the most underrated head football coach in pro football. Maybe one of the most underrated Super Bowl champion, constant winner, big-time organization. I'll say this to you. Since 2000, the Eagles ain't a better organization than the Ravens. That ain't happening. That's one of the top organizations in all of pro football. I would make the conversation that the Patriots over the last 25 years and the Ravens have to be top 3. Ravens have been spectacular. They draft right. They sign free agents right. The last 2 head coaches won Super Bowls, Brian Billick and John Harbaugh. They get the head coach right. They do so many things right in that organization. I totally dig the Ravens, and I love how they operate. Ozzie Newsome has a lot to do with that, setting the benchmark there in Baltimore. Okay? Don't fall for it. Lamar Jackson, he's going to start up again in due time. Not talk what you're talking about. The Cincy combo. Here, so look, Lamar and John Harbaugh, they're a Super Bowl contender. Hurts and Serriani aren't. That's not a Super Bowl combo. Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. That's not. It's like two B guys. Mike McCarthy won that Super Bowl because of the superstar talent of Aaron Rodgers, not because of the superstar play calling. Like when I watch Mike McCarthy, do I see Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? No. Absolutely not. I think Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is one of the best play calling head football coaches. And by the way, NFC Championship, been to a Super Bowl, been to 2 NFC title games, 49-19 as a head football coach, has a better win percentage than even your boy. And now he's got Justin Herbert doesn't have Brandon Staley. He's got Justin Herbert, one of the best arms in football. I mean, Justin Herbert goes from Brandon Staley to Jim Harbaugh. That's insane. Good for him. They're Super Bowl contender. I'm not sure this year, though. Obviously, Reid and Mahomes. Golf and Dan Campbell. I like that combo. Dan Campbell's looking more like a Super Bowl head coach. Hopefully, he can learn from his absolute disastrous play calling or his decision-making or his staff's decision-making in that NFC Championship game. I would say this to you. You got one more opportunity to right the ship. I like it, but do I think Dan Campbell and Jared Goff are Super Bowl combos where they can win a Super Bowl? I'm going to back up on it a little bit and say, Dan, you got to prove to me you can coach better when it counts. You can't have a lead in an NFC title game and blow it and think you're the right guy for Jared Goff. It's got to be on your side too, dude. Okay? That's it, Steve. That's right. I'm sure you think Jalen Hurts is better than Justin Herbert, which it's not even remotely close. How come Philadelphia wants him to look more like Herbert and the Cardinals or the Chargers don't want him to look anything like Hurts? The Eagles are doing everything they can to make him look like Justin Herbert or a passer. He's already a passer. Now he just needs a head coach. Remember something. Those other guys don't have to change. They're trying to change your boy. Purdy and Shanahan. Purdy's a top 10 quarterback. Shanahan's a top 10 play caller. Yes, like it. Now, I put some guys on the outside here. Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur, I think, is becoming a better head football coach. C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. I think that's going to be pretty good, too. I do. Okay. I knew you would like that point yesterday. Yeah, absolutely, Xander. Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, got so many great comments on our debate. You know, one thing that I'm loving with my boy, Xander, I don't think he'll be able to because he's got a lot of work to do. So I'm not sure he's going to be able to knock on the door at 3:30 for us here. But we are going to have Jason at 4:30 and Philly Godfather at 5:30, as always, as we do. By the way, because of camp starting, we're starting the normal guys up, and we're going to start rolling through them, and everybody's going to come aboard. Jimmy Johnson's going to come back. We're going to get Tony Dungy next week. We're going to get a bunch of people. Phil Sims, Boomer Esiason, all them guys are going to jump aboard with us. So we're going to be rolling out there with you guys there. So make no mistake about it. When you have that dynamic of quarterback and head football coach, there's no doubt that that's what this league is about. And look at the contenders: Dolphins, Ravens, Chiefs, Chargers, Lions, 49ers, Packers, Houston Texans. These are all teams that are contending. Why? Quarterback and head coach. You've got to get that dynamic right. Eagles don't have that right. Do you want to hear this? Before we get going here. Where's that? Where are those odds? Here, get this. Coaches who are more likely to be fired by the end of the 2024 season. Number 1 is Robert Saleh, plus 500. Number 2 is Mike McCarthy, Cowboys, plus 600. Third, there's a tie. Matt Eberflus, Bears, and Dennis Allen of the Saints, plus 700. You know who the fourth highest percentage coach that has the best odds of getting fired? And you know who he is? It's Nick Serriani, plus 800. Do you know who has better odds on not getting fired? Brian Dable at plus 900. He's fifth. Nick Sirianni, how in the world do you have the record and resume that he has? And you're the fourth most likely coach, according to the bookies, to be fired by the end of the year. How in the world is that possible? It's called being exposed. People see he's not who that record is. And by the way, do I think that's fair? Probably not. Probably not. I think that guy's earned the equity of a mulligan. I totally do. If he wins 11, 12 games, they may fire him anyway if it doesn't look what they want it to look like. Get this. This has nothing to do with record this year for Sirianni. This is about optics. Am I wrong? This is going to be about optics. He is the fourth bet to be fired by the end of the year. Okay? Okay, how about that? This guy is the fourth most likely guy to be canned by the end of the year. Dude, I really don't subscribe to that. I think a guy's got a record and he should be kind of gauged off that record a bit. But these are Vegas people. This isn't my take. This is Atlantic City and Vegas people who put the money on the table and say, the fourth most likely coach to be canned by the end of the year is Nick Sirianni. How in the world can you have that resume and you're the fourth most likely guy to be canned? Because nobody respects him. Not even the people that put the money on the games respect the coach in Philly. How in the world can the people in the locker room respect the guy in Philly? Just ask yourself that. Fourth most likely guy to be fired. Okay? Fourth most likely. And you know why you can take that to the bank? Because those people who put those odds put money behind it. They don't put opinion. I put opinion behind my takes. They put money. Okay? They put money behind it. There's your boy. People in Vegas. I don't even believe, hey, I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to it. I don't agree with it. But that's their take. People who put money on it, set a line for MVP, are telling you your coach is the fourth most likely guy to be fired by the end of the year. Once again, this is not going to be about wins. Is Jalen look good and does the team look good? And if that doesn't coincide with one another, he's gone. Nick Sirianni might win 11, 12 games this year and still be fired, which means no matter what he does, it's how it's going to look. You know, there's a chance he could save his his career if the football team had 9 wins. Just think, and the quarterback looked great. And how about this? Would Nick Seriani save his job if they did this? Say they win 12 games and get bounced in the wild card game, and they look like shit in that wild card game. You might fire him. But if you did this, they won 9 games. They look terrible, or a little bumpy and rocky in the first 6 weeks of the season. All of a sudden, they go down the last 10 games and they go 9-1, and they get into a divisional game and they get beat. Would you keep him? Hurts looks way better. Offense looks way better. The defense got better. I'd keep him. Why would I want to start over? That's the process. I wouldn't fire him. If he goes 9-1 down the stretch, title or bust, that's awful high expectations for a football team that's truly not a Super Bowl contender. You're not a Super Bowl contender. You're a wild card contender. Now, to what Xander and John were talking about today, I think they're both right. And as I said to you, 2 things can be right. Some people really love the roster. And some people look at the roster and think it's in the middle of the pack. And again, the offensive side of the ball doesn't make the roster. The 53 men do. Okay? Like Detroit has a better roster than you. Because they're more balanced across the board. Same with Kansas City. Do you have a better offense in both those teams? Yes. Do you have a better defense? By far, no. I'm going to make a point to you. We're going to get to the topics. And I'm going to show you something here. By the way, you know that game plan that certain people have about hope? I have a topic on hope. And we're going to do that here in a minute. But ESPN had a survey of players that were on the defensive side of the football. Let me get that roster. Okay. This is ESPN. They did a survey of the top 10 players at their respective positions. Top 10 players at their respective positions on defense. Do you know in their survey, the Eagles didn't have one player in the top 10 or considered a top 10 football player? Now, that's ESPN. You didn't have one football player in the top 10, according to that survey. I keep telling you all, Nick is fired no matter what. I'm taking that bet and throwing a ton of money on it. Okay, Big Marshall. Not one player in the top 10. This is not my survey because I'm going to make a point to you. I think there is a player that's a top 10 guy. Is Milton Williams a top 10 player? Absolutely not. Is Jordan Davis? Absolutely not. Is Jalen Carter? I think he is. As a matter of fact, I think he's a top 5 DT. Maybe I'm pushing it too high. But I think he's a top 5. I'm not going to compromise. I think he's a top 5 DT. Is Bryce Huff a top 10 edge rusher? Absolutely not. Is Kobe Dean a top 10 linebacker? Absolutely not. Is Devin White a top 10 linebacker? Absolutely not. Is Nolan Smith a top 10 edge rusher? Absolutely not. Is Quinyon Mitchell a top 10 defensive back? Absolutely not. Is CJ Gardner a top 10 safety? Absolutely not. Is Reed Blankenship a top 10 free safety? Absolutely not. Is Darius Slay a top corner in the NFL, top 10? Absolutely not. You have not one player that's ranked or would be considered a top 10 player on defense. Not one. Now, look, I'm not suggesting, and look at this. Is Jordan Mailata a top 10 player? Yes. Is Saquon Barkley considered a top 10 back? Yes. Is A.J. Brown considered a top 10 wideout? Yes. Is Devontae Smith? Some would say no. I say yes. Is Dallas Goedert a top 10 tight end? I think so. Is Mulata a top 10 tackle? Yes. Is Dickerson a top 10 guard? Yes. Is Jurgens a top 10 center? No. Is Steen? No. Is Lane? Yes. 8 of your... And you know what? You could debate Jalen. You could possibly have 9 guys. For our conversation, let's put Jalen in the top 10. You got 9 of your 11 guys on offense that's in the top 10 at their respected positions in this league on what some evaluators would think. And to some people, you don't have one guy that's considered a top 10 player on defense at any position. How in the world are you a Super Bowl contender? Help me on that. I'm trying to rationalize this out, pump the brakes. And then you'll turn around and you know what you'll give me? The only thing you'll give me is projections and hope. That's it. Nobody in the NFL thinks your defense has one player on there that's somebody I trade for. I might trade for Milton. I clearly would trade for Carter. I might trade for Davis. But as I said yesterday, some people think he's lived up to his expectations of the 13th pick. I by far do not. Do I think he's still considered a first-round player? I do. I think he's a top 32 guy that you could still put in that draft, and he'd be in there. He wouldn't be 13, though. Look at the 49ers on both sides of the ball. I want to show you this on the 49er roster. I wasn't going to do this because it just came to me here, but let me show you something on the roster of the 49ers and why you look at the San Francisco 49ers roster. 49ers depth chart. Again, this is ESPN did a survey of NFL executives. Again, who cares? You should care that you don't have any talent on defense. All prospects. Here. Brock Purdy, top 10? Yeah, I think so. McCaffrey, he's the best. Samuel, top 10? He's different. Would I consider him a top 10 wideout, Deebo Samuel? I'd probably put Ayuk in there. But then I don't think they're two wideouts or top 10 guys. I think Deebo's different. I'm not putting Deebo. I'm not going to put Deebo in the top 10. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put Ayuk in there either. They run that stupid fullback thing, but and again, Kyle is a Pro Bowler, but Kittle, totally top 10. Trent Williams, top 10. The kid Banks is a top 10. So they got 5 on offense. Now here's on defense. Bosa, 1. Warner, 1. Ward, 2. Hufanga, 4. You got 9 guys on that football team. And 4 on each side. There's better balance in San Francisco. All your guys are on offense. Oh, AJ is better than Deebo. I agree, but Deebo's different. Okay? But said we should care about defensive top 10 players. No, senor. You should care about having really good football players out there in some positions. No, you don't have them anywhere. Or you would say this. Well, wait, Sills, how do you know? Okay, well, let's just go by what we know now. We don't know. What I know now about your football team on defense and your secondary is this. I don't know. Well, that's not anything to evaluate. There's nothing to evaluate. Will that change like it did in Kansas City 2 years ago to last year? Absolutely. That's why when you guys go like this, takes should be held in cement. No, we don't. What you know right now, according to this survey, the Philadelphia Eagles don't have one defensive player that anybody thinks that are considered one of the top 10 players at their respective position. I disagree. I think Carter is a top 5 player. I completely disagree with that. Seals, the organization is basing the 23 season on the belief that the offense will carry the defense while Vic teaches them how to produce. San Francisco was built by a player who understands balance. Yeah, it's a great take, as usual, Bob. It's a great take. Absolutely. Ayuk is doing everything in his power to get out of San Francisco. RTF, he ain't going anywhere. He has no leverage. Now, if he doesn't want to play and get paid, want to be Le'Veon Bell, good luck to you. 49ers actually don't need him. That's why they drafted a wideout. New England kind of kicked the tires today on him. New England? Great. New England has high draft picks. They're not going to win a lot of games. That's exactly somebody that San Francisco would love to trade Ayuk to. You know why? I don't want to trade Ayuk to a winning football team. Why is that? Because in next April's draft, those people will be picking at the bottom of the draft. If New England, who I think has one of the worst franchises and worst rosters in the league, wins only 5 games, my second and third rounder is going to be at the top of those rounds. That's exactly the kind of team I want to trade with. I don't want to trade with the Eagles. I don't want to trade with the Cowboys. I want to trade with shitty teams. So that by next year April draft will have high picks in the respected rounds. Okay? Yeah. That's a perfect place to send him. That's a perfect place to send Brandon Ayuk. New England. Shitty quarterback. I mean, look, the guy they drafted, who's that kid they drafted out of Carolina? Drake May? Dude, you know what they're saying about him? He's struggling too. I mean, drafting these ACC quarterbacks, can you name me one that has been great in the last 10 years? Name me one. Let me see. Jameis Winston? Trevor Lawrence? Mitchell Trubisky? Can you name me one? Name me one quarterback in the last 10 years. I like that, Mike. Phillip Rivers, NC State. That's 2004. Is there a guy in the ACC even starting? Trevor Lawrence? But again, Russell Wilson finished his career in Wisconsin, I guess. I mean, that conference doesn't produce quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson? You think Deshaun Watson's a top 10 quarterback right now, RTF? He's paid like it. I get it. Daniel Jones? Thank you, Slagger, for putting the dot on the I there. Daniel Jones, Mitchell Trubisky, Jameis Winston. These are the quarterbacks that are coming out. No, I got it. I'm not ripping you, dog. The ACC. Why in the world would I draft a quarterback out of that shitbox conference when nobody plays well? You know why? Playing against Wake Forest and Duke. Are you crazy? If Vanderbilt were in the ACC, they'd win it every year. They win it every year. People don't realize how good Vanderbilt is. It's the hardest school, one of the hardest schools in the country to get in. Do they belong in the SEC? Well, in baseball and hoop, they do. Baseball and hoop, they do. They got a phenomenal baseball program. And it's one of the hardest schools to get in with the acceptance rate. They may not be a football power. They got a pretty good basketball team, too. Okay? That's a really good sports program. Yeah, that's why the Pats were crazy to draft May. I would never have drafted that guy. Hey, what was the guy's name that the Giants took from Duke back in the day? Dave Brown. Dave Brown. Now Daniel Jones. I mean, these guys are horrible. ACC quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence struggling in the NFL because he played in that conference. The only team you play is Clemson. And Clemson has been blowing everyone out in that conference. Got to be kidding me. I would never take a kid out of that place for the quarterback position. The competition they play sucks. And my Hurricanes are in that thing. You want to know why Miami blows? Because Miami's in the ACC. You know why we were great? We were independent. We played Oklahoma, Auburn, Florida, South Carolina, Maryland, Boston College, Penn State, all in a row. We didn't have off days where we played Central nobody. Every week, hey, you want to hear something crazy? This is why you don't take a quarterback out of those shitty conferences. We weren't in the Big East then. Get this, my first 4 games, my sophomore year at Miami, we played Florida, Michigan, Auburn, Florida State, and Ohio State. We were 4-1. I mean, now you play Bethune-Cookman and some of these other Sidewinder schools. Harder back in the day than it is today. Anyway, I'm not taking a kid out of that conference. We were so good because we didn't play in a conference like that. That's roadkill teams. NC State, Duke, Wake Forest. Those were roadkill teams. You don't gauge yourself against Duke. You gauge yourself against Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, A&M. I love the U. You came knocking on my door. Seals, you want to play in the ACC? Absolutely not. Seals, do you want to play in the SEC? Absolutely. It's the only conference I'm playing in. I'll walk on to play in the SEC versus going and playing in the Big 12. I don't want to play in the Big 12. I have no chance of making it to the NFL if I play in the Big 12. No chance. As a defender, no chance. You don't play defense in that conference. Imagine drafting a quarterback from Wyoming. No wonder the Bills can't win a playoff game. Now, again, a guy like Josh Allen got one offer. One offer. Only one team offered him a Division I scholarship. His parents didn't have any money. He's from the poor family. And he wrote thousands of letters to Division I programs, and nobody heard him. And now he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in pro football. There's a difference. If you got a chance to go to Wyoming or go to Alabama, you're not going to Wyoming. You're not even picking the phone up. But if Wyoming is your only opportunity, you're going to go to Wyoming. That's right, Pickett. SEC. Look at Josh Brown. He thinks this is an excuse. Only one team offered him a scholarship. And his parents had no money. That's not an excuse. That's facts. One thing's for sure, a guy's a first-round pick. And he's highly thought of in that league. Still starts on the 12-team playoff in college. As long as you can get as many SEC and SEC teams into the college football playoff, then it's a good thing. Because last year not having Georgia in it was a complete criminal crime. You win 2 straight national titles. You lose to Alabama in overtime by 3, and you don't put them in. And you put some low-life Washington team or some overrated Texas team in the semifinals just because you didn't want it to be SEC heavy. Because you knew one of the SEC teams were going to end up eventually. You didn't really think Michigan was going to get past Alabama and Georgia. They made it easier for Michigan. Do you really think that Michigan team would have went through Alabama, who took them to overtime, and then they would have turned around and beat Georgia? No way. Georgia would have won the national title last year. They would have won the national title. All right. So, I want to show you something here. And this goes into a little bit of what I was telling you about the word hope. Now, do you guys, how many people in here believe that the Philadelphia Eagles are a Super Bowl contending team, or do you believe that you're a playoff team? I think there's a difference. Are you a wild card type team? Are you a playoff team? Are you a Super Bowl contender? Like, how do you look at who you are right now? Okay. Jason says, I'm going to write some of these down. You look at yourself as a playoff team, right, Jace? Okay, playoff. JB, I'd be curious. What do you look at them as? A Super Bowl contender? A playoff team? Wild card team? Maxon says playoff. There's 2. Seals, the NCAA does not develop quarterbacks anymore. Today, they take athletes who can throw a little bit and let them play quarterback. It makes it possible to find a gem on the unexpected teams like Wentz. Agreed. Playoff, Mike says. Lou says Super Bowl. Okay, we got a Super Bowl. El says playoffs. Wild card at best, says James. Wild card team. There's the first wild card. Okay. Playoffs. I can't have one or the other, Hoss. You got to pick one. Super Bowl, not with the defense. Playoff, yes. So most of you guys look at the Eagles as a playoff team. Okay. Hey, am I right to say this? So Steve says Super Bowl. Am I right to say this to you guys? Sills, it's not that we don't think you're right. It's that we're hoping for a Super Bowl, but we know we're a playoff team. Is that your thinking? Because if that's the case, I think that's actually the right thinking. See, because I think that's the right way to think about it. Okay? I'm going to bet them at 14-1, though. Great value. It's a great value. Maxon, that's how you look at it, Sills. Look, for all the criticism that you do give, and it's warranted, I look at that team as a playoff team. Xander, behind the scenes, throw it up there. Do you think that team is a playoff team, a wild card team, or do you think they're a Super Bowl contender? I'd be curious. Defense is the question. I know. I'm just asking you how you look at where you are right now, 4 days out from camp. Okay? That's all I'm asking here. This is a 12-14 win team. The offense, it's not what I asked you, Evan. Evan, is it a Super Bowl team, a playoff team, a wild card team? In your eyes. Sills, we're focusing on the water in the glass. You're focusing on the water that's not in the glass. Yeah, because I'm looking for certain. Okay, well, wait. I'm gonna address that, Bob, here in a minute. Joey says playoff team. You can't forget the Eagles' 22 run to the Super Bowl was littered with garbage quarterbacks, which lessened the impact of the suspect defense and inflated sack numbers. That's all true. But roster, to be fair, was littered with a lot of veteran guys on that team, too. They're a playoff team that can compete for a Super Bowl, Sills. Okay. It's a Super Bowl contender, says Evan. All right, let me get over here. Let me see what Kimberly says. Georgia all the way. I think Georgia's going to be my number one preseason football team. Jeff DeBone, thank you, brother. We appreciate that, man. It means a lot. All right. Let me show you something here. I think most of you really have a really good take on the season this year. Jeff DeBone, brand new member. Very good. Thank you, brother. Hey, by the way, it makes me think that I've been a little too hard on some of you, on some of your takes, because if that's your true mentality, that you're thinking, hey, Sills, hang on here, man. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm hoping for a Super Bowl because we're spending a lot of money. We got a lot of unproven talent in the secondary back there. That could all totally true. This team probably has more upside than any team you've had the last 2 years. Is that fair? Right? Probably has more upside than any team. Right? Okay. These are players. And let me get this right how I phrase this. What the Eagles are hoping for at certain key spots on the team, this is what you're hoping happens to your football team to be a Super Bowl contender. Where do I think they are? I'm not really sure because I think I'm more like some of the other people. I think you're in the middle of the row in a roster. I keep hearing people say you got a super talented roster. I don't believe that. I think you got a superstar offense that is the best and could be the best in football. I don't know what you have on defense. Follow me here. By the way, I'm trying to have a conversation today. I'm not trying to go with hyperbole or anything, okay? I'm really not. Look at Flexen. It says a super talented defense where nobody ever thinks that there's one player over there that they would trade for. Here are your hopes to getting to the Super Bowl. Let's start with right guard. Are you hoping Tyler Steen turns out to be a good player? Are you? Are you hoping that Tyler Steen is a good player? So would you put that as a big question mark? That's a question mark position. Right? Okay. So there's question mark 1. Let's see how many question marks you have. And by the way, I don't even think I got Hurts on here. Can Nolan Smith play? Question mark? Are you going to get pressure with him? This is 4 days out from camp. Question mark? Or no? Question mark? Okay. Question mark. There's question mark 2. You don't know what's at right guard, and you don't know Nolan Smith can play. Okay. Let's go to 3. Are you sure Nakobe Dean can play in this league? I think that's question mark 3. Are you sure Devin White is going to capture his second year status as a player in this league? Question mark? Here's an interesting one. Was Quinyon Mitchell the right corner drafted? By the way, someone asked me the question, what was the conversation in the draft room, draft day with Quinyon Mitchell and Teron Arnold? The majority of the people in the room, because of Nick's relationship with the head coach at Toledo, sided with Nick and sided with the relationship that they had with the Toledo head coach. And that was the swinging factor on why Mitchell was taken over Arnold. Now, Arnold was only taken 2 spots later by Detroit. So pretty much they were the same guy. But at the end of the day, it sided on the relationship of Nick on why Quinyon Mitchell's in the building. And by the way, is that a good way to go? Yeah. Because you're going to get more of an honest assessment if you have a personal relationship with the head coach at Toledo on what the kid's about. And if the kid is really not that guy, your best friend or one of your roommate or a guy you've had a relationship with a long time is probably going to tell you more insight than he would if you were someone else. So I don't think that's a bad thing. There's nothing negative I would put around that. Right? Mitchell will be good. Still a question mark. Is Huff replace Reddick? Question mark? Will Jordan Davis play better at nose than he did at tackle? Personally, as a defensive tackle in the NFL, I think Jordan Davis is a tick above average. At nose, he could be special. Could he be Vita Vea? Vita Vea misses time. Could he be Vince Wilfork? He's got that ability. You know the problem that people have with Jordan Davis? Xander sees it too. And there's a lot of people that are high on him. You know why? How could you not be? Size, strength, speed. He's one of those guys that you say this to all the time. He never quite lived up to it. And guess what? He's still good. Those are the guys you shake your head at and go, man, if he just had a killer instinct or a winning instinct to want to be great, he would be great. I think it's mental with him. Do you want it bad enough? Do you really want to be? You can't be 348 pounds and run 4.8s or 4.78s. Be that big, run Josh Allen down like a water buffalo, and think that you don't have skill set that's off the charts. Seriously, I'll say it one more time to you. Watching Jordan Davis run down Josh Allen like that, who's 6'6", and watching him throw him to the ground like that, one of the best plays I've ever seen for a big man. I sat and watched that and went, holy shit, that was a great play. After that play, you could have put a bow on a season. It was over after that. It was like his last bit of Superman juice was completely sucked out of him after that play. But I swear to you, I said, man, that's why you draft that guy 13th. Right there is why you draft him 13th. That's a man's play. You don't see people that size running like that. That's uncommon. Okay? Sills, that's where coaching comes in. The DC or D-line coach need to find a button to flip in Davis. Dude, you got to make that guy as hungry and as mean as you possibly can. He needs to play with a better attitude. And I mean maybe a nastier attitude because he's got too much skill. He's a skilled player. That's why when you hear Xander talking, he's not wrong. But when you look at production, he is wrong. I don't care you play a ton of snaps. Are you productive in those snaps? If you're not and your team's getting killed, well, the coach changed the scheme. Okay. So they're coaching him wrong and they're not getting the most out of him. That's an organizational thing and a him thing. Totally. There's no doubt coaching plays a factor in player development. You not only stunted Jalen Hurts' growth last year, you stunted Jordan Davis's growth and Jalen Carter's growth and every DB back there and probably Nakobe Dean. Think about all the damage you did a year ago with those stupid coaches. Not just what hurt. You know what? We look too much in the micro at Hurts and how he was affected. How about the other shitty ways that they were not getting it done on the other side of the ball and who you affected? How do you know Nolan Smith? Here, to the point, how do you know Nolan Smith isn't really a good player? How do you know that? It was a complete train wreck last year. A complete train wreck. Player development suffered massively last year. You didn't grow any linebackers. You didn't grow anybody in the secondary. You didn't help one defensive player last year get better. And you actually made Jordan Davis worse. No, you actually made Jalen Carter worse. You want to know the antithesis of how the player development on that football team went last year? Jalen Carter was a slam dunk defensive rookie of the year. He was a slam dunk rookie of the year. I didn't think anybody was close to him. By week 14, he was a shell of himself. Player develop. They went from schooling him and helping him become a player of the year candidate to a guy you went, well, it's the rookie wall. And there was your excuse to hang your hat on for him. That's how bad it got. Look at the players that were not developed. By the way, do you actually think you're ever going to see a bad year from Devontae Smith? You know why you're not? He was a polished, finished product coming out of Alabama. Every one of those wide receivers that come out of Alabama, hey, Xander, or anybody, who's the wide receiver coach at Alabama? I want to hire him. Because Judy, Julio, Amari, Devontae, Waddle, every single one of these guys that come out of Alabama are finished and polished products. You don't ever have to worry about a wide receiver not being ready to play in the NFL out of Bama. That ain't happening. Says, you know, Clint, will he get the most out of Davis and Carter? Absolutely. Appreciate that too. Thank you, Paul. Yes. I love Tracy Rocker. He's a former teammate of mine and dear friend of mine. Okay. Jerry Jeudy has been a disappointment when he was in Denver. He was. Okay. I agree with that. Wide receiver Devontae Smith became the first wide receiver in almost 3 decades to win the Heisman Trophy. And he also, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of the very few wide receivers in Eagle history. Do you guys know that you're in the greatest era of wide receivers in Eagle history right now? You never had a 100-catch guy. You never had back-to-back 1,000 dual guys. And here they are. It's the best era of dual wide receivers you've ever had in your franchise's history. Is right now currently. Organizationally, we don't challenge rookies to contribute year one. slow roll them into the year. Well, sometimes you also got to play into a factor. You got a good football team too, Bob. Just because you draft a bunch of young kids, and if you got a good football team that's projected to win 13, 14 games, you're not going to get a lot of playing time when you're talking about that. By the way, let me finish this list. So Jordan Davis, will he end up being the player we hope it knows? That's a question mark. Gardner Johnson, he's getting to revert back to his 2022. Last year was a train wreck for him. Vic Fangio. The new scheme. Is it going to fit the new players? And the Kellen Moore Hurts relationship. How in the world is that going to look this year is one of the biggest question marks. So when I ask you guys if you're a Super Bowl contender, how can you be when you have, and I just pointed these out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 question marks going into camp. Can all of these be addressed in camp? Not one of them will be. I think it was Holloman Wiggins that was the wide receiver coach at Bama. Well, that guy was a developer of some of the best talent in National Football League. What a resume. Holy car. I mean, incredible talent Alabama has produced at that position. And for a defensive-minded coach in Nick Sabin to produce that kind of talent at that wide receiver spot is insane. Carter and Davis' his only flaw is conditioning. They need to get on the juice. Oh, yeah, okay. Hey, Charlie, here's what they didn't realize. Okay, William, that wide receiver coach at Alabama, man, I would hire him in 10 seconds. Okay, I would hire him in 10 seconds. Now, your worst year was 4 wins a couple years ago, Prince, not 11 wins. The team had their worst season last year, finishing 11-6 with their defense ranked last. Yet, many believe we will win 7 games. Shitty coaching and scheme players quit. Well, you got more question marks this year than you did last year going into this. You got more question marks right now on the team, dude, than you did a year ago. You're nowhere near that 22 team. But there's more upside on this team than the 22 team. I agree with that. But upside don't win you games. You got to wait and see how it looks. And by the way, I don't mind upside. But at 7 positions, you got question marks at 7 positions. Here, question mark. Right guard. Question mark. Wide receiver 3. Question mark. Both backers. Question mark. Huff and Nolan. Question mark. Corner play. Slay and the other guy. You have a very talented, make no mistake about it, a super talented, offensive, good-looking football team. There is no getting around it. But I'll ask the question again after we just went all over this. Are you a Super Bowl contender, a wild card team, or are you a playoff contender? What are you? I hear John talking about, well, the Eagles and the front office, have they overrated the roster? And I heard Xander say, well, the expectations. There's a lot of question marks, but the Eagles, supposedly, according to John, they don't care about the expectations. They think they have a Super Bowl contending team. You have that defense. There is, like the survey said, by the way, that's not my survey. According to NFL scouts, you don't have one player on that defensive football team that would be considered a top 10 player. Usually, when you're a football team, you have one guy that's on your team. I mean, I think Carter is. Okay? Hey, John McMullen's out there all the time. I think John's a straight shooter, man. John doesn't, I don't think he does that show, Birds 365 with pom-poms. Hey, he's critical of a lot of things. I think that's what totally makes him great. You know, I completely believe in what he says. Okay, just hope the defense can play middle of the pack at best and give us a chance. Tony, that means this when you're that. And I agree with that, Tony. Seals, they haven't overrated the roster. They've underrated the time it will take for the D to mesh. Oof. Bob, you've got to have some football background in you, Bob, because that's really also good. And to Tony's point here, Seals, just hope the defense can play middle of the pack. So, Tony, how about this one? Hey, just get the Eagles in the playoffs, see what happens. You think that's what they're thinking with that defense? Just get the team into the playoffs. Let's see what happens with the offense. The offense is so talented. Could it carry you to a Super Bowl? Especially in the NFC. Like, it's a good take for this reason. How many football teams in the NFC are complete? Well, I think Detroit. I think San Francisco. By the way, I think you guys are wrong. I know you guys think you have a better roster than Green Bay, but I beg to differ. I think they're more balanced than you. I think they can make stops where you can't. Now, I don't think they're overly talented on defense, but I think they can make more stops in games. And they got a quarterback that can throw them out of trouble. And they got an offensive coordinator who's better than Kellen. Their D guy, I'm not big on. So, Eagles probably are better there. But again, they've got more players on defense. How great do you have to be in the NFC defensively to get to the NFC title game? It's a great question. Sills, in the AFC, you probably have to have a better defense because of the quarterbacks you're playing. In the NFC, do I really need to have a top 10 quarter? Do I have to have a top 10 defense? Probably not. Okay? Probably not. Right? Probably not. You don't really need a top flight defense in this year's NFC. I don't think. If they put the RPO back in, we are Super Bowl contenders. Otherwise, we're wild card. This disciple. Here's why when you put the RPO back in, you keep your disciple. You tell me if you agree. If you keep your defense off the field, and the objective is to keep them off the field and win time of possession every single game, and you hold the ball more and longer than the opponent you have, how many wins do you have this year? I think that's going to be the key stat. The key stat for the Philadelphia Eagles this year will be time of possession. It'll be time of possession. It's not going to be yards. It's not going to be touchdowns. It's not going to be scoring. It's going to be time of possession. Because here, if you get up on a team 21-0, okay, and all of a sudden you have 4 3-and-outs, you move the game back in their direction and give them 4 shots to even the game. You make the game close because you can't control the clock. Keep that D off the field is going to be my objective in the beginning of the season. If you do what you did hey, you know what would be interesting? I wonder what the time differential was. when it came to time of possession compared from 22 to 23 and what that looked like. Okay, I wonder what that looked like, having the time of possession. Because really, the second half of the season kind of threw that number off a little bit. And I wonder what that looked like. Because in 2022, you guys would take that ball, like I said yesterday, and you would own that first half. You put teams away almost in the first half in 22. What up, Akbar? Appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you, my friend. Okay. Shaquille, finally, a Sileo point I can 100% agree with. It's absolutely be the time of possession. Shaquille, to me, that's going to be the key for this football season. Well, thank you, C24, for pointing it out. Guys, please hit the like button for us. Thank you. Okay? Somebody do me a favor and look that differential up for me. It just came to me right now because I don't know what that is. I didn't look that up prior to the show. I wonder what your time of possession was compared to what the opponent's time of possession was and what the differential was in 22 compared to 2023. Because last year, you allowed all those teams, especially in the second half, to come back on you. And when you fell apart, it fell apart. Sills, adding a safety like Simmons or a cornerback like Gilmore would help lock down the back end. With the experience and communication, should come quickly. This would take a lot of pressure off the linebackers and would also probably help your front four when it comes to pressure as well. I would agree with that. You know, people in here will go like this. Why would you want Stephon Gilmore? Well, don't you want to have somebody that knows what they're doing? The Eagles don't have anybody back there right now that knows what they're doing. You got Slay. If you took Slay off that team, you have nobody back there that knows what they're doing. You don't have anybody. Have you ever communicated across the line? 17 games? You think experience doesn't matter in that? You think there's a reason why certain coaches like to have experienced players? Okay, Mike. So 22, 30, okay, 30, yeah, it was the turnovers then. It's what led to it. Okay, so the Eagles ranked 7th in time of possession in 22. Thanks. I'd like to know what they were ranked in 20 and 23. They were ranked 7th in time of possession. And that's with the RPO they ran. What did they Dream Green? What did they rank in 23? What was their ranking in 23? So they were 7th in 22. Okay, that's good. And with the limited amount of turnovers they had, okay, in 23 they were 14th. So think about that. You went from being ranked 7th in time of possession to 14th in 23. You dropped 7 full spots and add turnovers into it. Teams are going to have an opportunity to beat you. And that's what happened. Turnovers, and you lost time of possession. The RPO was taken out and the read option was taken out. And that's why you were in all those ball games you were in. 14th, you dropped 7 full spots. Get this, think about what that says on both sides of the ball for a second. Okay? Think about where you are now. Okay? And again, figuring out what the problem is of a year ago to rectify that so that you don't have the same continuing situation this year is how you evolve and get better. That's how you get better. You don't get better just by blowing shit off. That's not how you get better. Okay? You went from being second or third in pass defense in 22 to 31st. You went from 7th in time of possession to 14th. Then you were high in INT or turnovers. Have you rectified that this year? Vic is more detailed and should put guys in better position to succeed. I agree, Twiz. Third down scoring and red zone defense was 30th or worse. Do you really believe, Forrest, that they have addressed that? How have they addressed that? Third down defense was one of the major weaknesses. And I'll say this to you, too. You're right. It's not just about the 1-6 a year ago meltdown. It's about the whole 17 games. You put it together. It was a seesaw. That's not a championship team. It was never a championship team, even at 10-2. Because when you look at it at its totality, it was fool's gold. So, as you go into camp, I pointed out all of these question marks. There's 10 of them. And I didn't really point out all of them. I pointed out going into camp, who's your right guard? And by the way, you have not replaced Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, and Isaac Seumalo. You haven't. You have not replaced those three players. And now you're going to add Reddick to that. So, in the last 2 years, you lose Seumalo. No, actually, here, you've lost Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, TJ Edwards, Kaiser White, Hassan Reddick, and Fletcher Cox. You haven't replaced White. You haven't replaced Edwards. Let's see if you can replace Reddick, Fletcher, probably Fletcher with Carter, and Kelsey. And that's where you are. I'd much rather have ball coverage linebackers than just a bull rush. We have to be able to cover one at a time. One of the things that you're going to struggle with, Dream Green, is covering tight ends. You're gonna have issues covering tight ends. In my point. Okay? Sills, I'm willing to let the kids play and learn on the job. This team is young and our window is open. Taking a step backwards to gain later works. We just need to manage expectations. Agreed. 100%. Sills, would Miami's defense have been better if the DBs and safeties actually bought into his system? Absolutely. You got to remember something, though, Prince. Jalen Ramsey is a man cover guy. Vic doesn't believe he's a zone defensive guy. Xavier Howard is a man press cover corner. They didn't want to play that style. They didn't like playing the center field. They didn't want to play that kind of style. Because you know why? They felt playing 5 or 6 yards off the ball and giving that underneath to all the teams was counterproductive to their skill set. They believe that they can go up. I think that's ego. Because at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit if you like my scheme or not. If my scheme keeps you off the scoreboard, you will play the scheme that I want you to play. And by the way, I think you can play in my scheme, but if you don't want to buy in, Hassan Reddick, Get your fucking ass out of here. Because if you don't want to play, I want players that want to buy in. He experienced that in Miami, Prince. And that's exactly what happened. You're right. Xavier Howard and Ramsey didn't want to buy into that. They didn't want to buy into it. I think Reddick had a lot to do with that. I think Reddick saying, hey, well, I may ask you to drop in coverage. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, then you're not going to be here. Because I'll tell you what, you'd be better suited somewhere else. And we're going to make that opportunity for you. And we're going to see what we can do. It's why the agent came out. All those leaking things that came out about Reddick were not from the organization. Howie told you at the draft. Who was first to make the comment and conversation about a new contract with Reddick? Remember what Howie said? Was the agent. The agent was the first guy. He leaked all of that, trying to create a market that was never there. Hassan Reddick doesn't have a market. Okay? And the Jets wanted to cover for the loss of Bryce Huff. Think about this. They didn't want to sign Bryce Huff to a long, did you ever ask yourself that? If Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are so good on defensive personnel, and that's Robert Saleh's forte, why did the Jets want to give Bryce Huff a long-term extension if they thought he was so good? He's younger than Reddick. Did you ever ask yourself why the Jets passed on him and didn't want to give him a 3-year contract and would rather have Reddick for 1 year? If that. Did you ever ask yourself that? Was it the money? It's the same amount of money. Did you ever ask yourself why the Jets just let him walk out the door? Seals, do you know Huff has the same number of sacks that Hassan had before he joined the Eagles? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, Skid? Last year, Reddick had 11. He had 10. And he missed the first 4 weeks of the season with that cast on his hand. Wasn't really going to be an effective pass rusher. And then they started dropping him in coverage. I think Reddick didn't have a bad year at all. I think the Eagle coaches had a bad year. I mean, the last 4 years, Hassan Reddick has 51 sacks. There's only one guy in pro football that has as many sack seasons, and that's Myles Garrett in the league. So Reddick is doing something right. Fans are clamoring for the Jets to re-sign Huff. We're clamoring for the Jets to re-sign Huff. Read the comments on Jets videos. Fans are kind of pissed. Well, that's great, but that doesn't matter. The Jets passed on him. Just like the Giants passed on Barkley. Before Hassan joined the Eagles, the total in his career, he didn't have. Oh, you mean last? No. I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't have any sacks prior to this last year. He had like 2, 1, 3. Reddick had 16 a year. Reddick has had 27 regular season sacks in the last 2 years. At Reddick's year 4, well, that's not a fair comparison because the Cardinals used him differently. He had 80 tackles and was used primarily as an inside linebacker and wasn't used as an edge rusher. Look at the numbers. They were using him completely different. They weren't rushing him. They were playing him at inside linebacker, and he was putting up 80 to 60 tackles a year, whereas this guy's never had more than 19 in a season. It's not a fair evaluation because the Cardinals weren't using him the way that they used him. That's why they let him go, because he wasn't really all that great of an interior linebacker inside. But once they found out he could rush the passer like in Carolina, that's when they realized he's more of an edge rusher because they already have 2 pass rushers they could have paid. Because Huff wasn't a starter like that earlier. Okay, he's never been a starter. Actually, he's never been a starter. Huff played like half the snaps as Reddick, but had 10 sacks on a shitty team, playing from behind. How many games did the Jets win? 4? Reddick was on an 11-win team that had 11 sacks. Are you trying to say Huff is as good as Hassan Reddick, who's had almost 30, counting the playoffs, he's had over 35 sacks in 2 years? That's Reggie White shit. That's Reggie White stuff. What are you, crazy? This guy's almost had like 40 sacks. Let me see. He had 2 in the NFC title game. He had 1 in that Giants game. He had 3. He had 19 sacks in 2022. He had 19 sacks total. 19. So he had 40 sacks in 2 years. 40. Or 30, excuse me, 30. He had 30 sacks in 2 years. 30, 15 a year. Really? You might want to pump the brakes on that one too. Again, question mark. I like how people are looking at this. You know, there are way more question marks on this football team in the last 2 years. Way more. You can't deny it. Watch this. Sills, do you think there's more potential on this team than in the last 2 years? Yeah. You think there's more question marks? Yeah. Because anytime you use the word potential, that means the opposite of questions. Yes. I don't want to have more potential. I want to know, you think the Kansas City Chiefs have more potential? Or do you think the Kansas City Chiefs are kind of, you know who they are? They don't talk the word potential in Kansas City. Unless it's like Xavier Worthy, the kid they got from Texas. Shit like that. Or the corner play because they lose Snead. Probably have that kind of outside of that, there ain't no other conversation. It's more about health and depth. That's all they talk about in Kansas City. Health and depth. Okay. Hassan Reddick's career before joining the Eagles had exactly the same amount of sacks that Huff has now before joining the Eagles in his career. That's not true. That is not true. He had 11 sacks in Carolina, and last year, he had 10 sacks in Arizona. He had 20 sacks going into the last 2 years here. He had 20 sacks. Huff has a monster game against the Eagles in 23. How could you know he had a monster game when he didn't start on the team? How could you? The Jets defense isn't bad. Losing Aaron Rodgers makes their offense terrible. And it affects their defense too, Prince. It does. It does. Eagle fans trying to hype up Huff. Hey, look, no, the Eagles are too. John McMullen is exceptionally high on him. I mean, he's exceptionally high. He goes, he had a great success rate a year ago. Okay. Would you consider him one of the elite pass rushers in pro football? Is he an impact player like Reddick? I saw Reddick destroy the NFC title game. I'll never get that out of my mind. Hey, James Jones, I saw Reddick destroy the NFC title game. He destroyed it. He was the most impactful player on the football field that day, both offensively and defensively. Nobody was better than him that day. Nobody. You know how you guys say that Jalen Hurts played great in the Super Bowl? Reddick was spectacular in that NFC title game. I think he knocked another quarterback out later in the game. I think he took 2 QBs out. I mean, they had no answers for him. That was the 49ers. He broke Brock Purdy to pieces. And then he turned around and he broke the backup quarterback up. Okay, Skid, you think that Bryce Huff is as good as Reddick? Good luck to you. I do not think that's close of a conversation. Not remotely close. Not remotely close. He was used differently. I'll make the point to you guys because Skid is skewing the numbers. He was used as an interior defensive lineman. I already know what Huff's tackle numbers are. They're like 12, 9, 16, 14, something like some horrible numbers. Why are they pumping this guy Huff up? Could be a bust. I don't think bust. I bet you they trade for edge at the trading deadline. Who's covering the tight ends? Well, they don't have anybody that can cover a tight end right now. I'll show you when you're talking about Reddick, because Reddick was used differently. Hassan Reddick stats. Reddick was completely used differently when he was in Arizona. And I'll make the point to you because this kid has no idea what he's talking about. Early in his career here, check it out. Here's sacks. Okay. Reddick was 2, 4, 1. And when they started using him right, he's at 12.5, 11, 16, and 1. Okay. Well, prior to that, here were his tackle totals. 80 total tackles, 76 total tackles, 63 total tackles, 53 solo, 46 solo, 47 solo. Then they started paring it down, realizing that he was a pass rusher. And here is the first 4 years of Bryce Huff, who basically they were using situationally. Bryce Huff stats. It goes right down the line of what I said to you. Okay, Reddick was used out of position. He's a hard player, though, to figure out. And here's the combo. 16 total tackles, 14 total tackles, 6 total tackles, 29 total tackles. Never at any time in his career has he ever shown where he has the skill set of Hassan Reddick. Not one time. 10 sacks. That's a down year for Reddick. It's a down year. How is Reddick any more than a sack artist, Sills? Oh, hey, I'm not saying that the player doesn't have deficiencies. The reason why he's been on 4 different teams is because he can't tackle and he can't cover. Well, those are the same similarities that Huff has. Can't cover and he can't tackle. He hasn't shown at any time in his NFL career that he has put a tackle chart together where he's put guys on the ground. He's a wind up and let him slam in a quarterback guy. Fair enough. That's what they're signing him up for. They signed Reddick up for that. Reddick did that at a high level. You could make the argument that he was top 3 players in 22, Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. They're paying Huff to be a cheaper Reddick. Actually, they're paying him more. Reddick was making $15 million. They're paying him $17.8 or $17.4. Okay? James, I don't think they were ever going to, in a million years, ever trade Hassan Reddick to the Washington Commanders. I don't think that was ever going to happen. Now, James, that he's with the Jets seem to be shopping him. Detroit's got interest in him. So Detroit looks like they have interest in Hassan Reddick. Yannick had 4 sacks in 22 and 9.5 in 22 and 10 in 21. I like the player as a I like the player. I like the player as a backup for depth at the edge. I do. Let's see here. I mean, not paying Reddick 25 to 30 million. That's what we were supposed to do. That's what he supposedly wanted, between 25 and 30. I think he was looking at the market. Forrest, he wanted, not paying Reddick 25 to 30 million. That's what he supposedly wanted. Correct. Probably so. I think that's what the agent was looking at, between 25 and 30. Hey, they overestimated the market. Happens all the time. We see it. They thought that their value was more. They got on the open market and it wasn't. Saquon Barkley, a year ago, before he signed with the Eagles, thought his market value was more. The Giants, there were no takers for him at the money of $14 million. There was nobody at $14 million. So what happens? He signs for $9 million. I mean, he thought he was a $14 million player prior to this past season. And that's why they bumped him up a little bit. But the Giants never thought he was a $14 million player. And that's why they let him walk. And on a shitty roster like the Giants, it's probably the right thing to do. Reddick is owed $14.25. Okay, that sounds right. But we know that price is going to go up with the new contract. Well, he ain't getting a new contract in New York. They may give him more money, they said. But they're not in a position right now where they're going to sign him to a 3-year deal. I think the only way Reddick gets a 3-year deal is on another ball club because the Jets would have done it already. They're not even negotiating. They've made a public comment where they're open to giving him more money this year, but they're not open to giving him a 3-year contract. They've made that clear, Joe Douglas. Okay? Sills, teams aren't paying people $20 million a year to just sack the quarterback. Use your brain. Really? You are. You're paying a guy almost $18 million to rush the passer. That's all he does. He don't tackle. He can't cover. You contradict yourself because this guy is making almost $18 million. He's 17-8. You're paying a guy $18 million who can't do anything but rush the passer. And he's not even elite at that when it comes to being a guy that if you're comparing him to Reddick, he's not Reddick. Difference is $2 million. Well, then why didn't you keep the guy you had for 15 who was better? Play him like Hargrave. Hargrave played through a final year of his contract. Went into the offseason. 49ers signed him to a $20 million deal. Why didn't you keep him? Why didn't you sign both? Why didn't you keep Reddick and sign Huff? You ever ask yourself that? LJ says he's holding out. We'll see. We'll see. If he's going to throw all that money into a trash can. Have at it. Personally, I think he's going to be traded to the Lions. That's what you have on defense, JB. Bunch of what ifs. Funny how you look at things. You don't look at your what ifs, but you look at others' what ifs. What if Nolan Smith is good? What if the right guard's good? What if Nakobe Dean's good? What if Quinyon Mitchell was the right guy? What if Jordan Davis plays up to his ability? What if Quinyon Mitchell is going to be the starting corner? What if Devin White? All what ifs. You got a ton of them too, kid. Got plenty of cap money. That's right, Tony. You're 27-7 right now. Could have capped. You could have done both. You could have even bumped his pay up. Give him a 2-year contract. You know what you could have did? You could have lowered, get this too, Tony. You could have signed him to a 2-year contract, lowered his base pay, and then dealt him in the offseason and traded him. If he turns in another 15 sack season. Think about what you could have did. You could have signed him to a 2-year contract, lowered his base so that the cap hit doesn't kill you. You could have dealt him this coming offseason. Maybe got a 3rd rounder, 4th round, 2nd rounder for him. Instead, you got a contingent pick. Apparently, Reddick was freelancing at the end and pissed some people off. Well, I don't think that Reddick should be held accountable for Matt Patricia's incompetence. Do you? So wait a minute. You're going to try to tell me, hey, Yale, I'm not saying this to you. So what's this? Hey, Tony, think about what these guys say. So the defense had shitty coaching last year, and Reddick didn't like the coaching. So Reddick turned into a freelancer because the coaching was so bad because they were dropping him in coverage. And you want to blame him for not playing along when you guys were telling me that you had bad coaching on defense. So which is it? Reddick didn't like what the bad coaches were doing? Or is it that the bad coaching and Reddick were bad? Is that what it is? I'm confused. I'm so confused. So you had bad defensive coaching with Matt Patricia at the end. You all have said that. It ruined Jalen Carter's chances at Rookie of the Year. Then it hurt Jordan Davis. Then Reddick complained about dropping into coverage. But Reddick's a bad guy because he knew that the defensive coaching was horrible. They sabotaged him. And then you turn around and blame Reddick for that because Reddick's now on a different team? That's stupid. That's stupid. What do you got, another scapegoat here? Boy, I'll tell you, man, you guys love him. Coaches and Reddick were the issues last year now. And nobody else. There's 53 guys on the team. Yell goes, the issue's in New Jersey now. No, it's not. It's how you do your business. No, it's not. No, it's not. Stills trying to work stuff out with Reddick would have ended up in the media. Reddick already showed he'd speak his mind with a mic in his face. The organization is not wired for that. It's true. Nobody's taking accountability. They just tried to put Band-Aids on everything until they fall off and have to spend more money or make moves to make up for their mistakes. How about this here, man, too? Think about this, Tony. Tony, great spin. Sean, too. No, Sills. Jalen Carter ruined his chances at not being the Rookie of the Year. The terrible coaching just agreed with his poor behavior off the field. That's a fucking awful take. Jalen Carter has not had one issue. The stupid thing in a department store. Give me a break. Dude, absolutely not true. Reuben Franks. Absolutely an asinine take. I have no problem with Jalen Carter. Zero. I think the kid's a fine young man. And to sit there and have an issue with him because of the unfortunate death that happened at Georgia is ludicrous. Okay? No, he said off the field. Okay. Sean corrected it. On the field. On the field. Okay. Sean, I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think them changing him to a 2 technique. Hey, Jeff, let me ask you something. Jeff brings up a great point. Jeff needs to get his Carter needs to get his endurance up. Hey, Jeff, let me ask you this. How many talented defensive football players has Georgia, in your opinion, put in the draft the last 3 years? Or the last, how many years is he now? Jordan's going into his 3rd year. How many talented defensive players have gone into first and second rounds out of Georgia? 5? The kid Wyatt. Jordan Davis. They've had a bunch of kids, right? For the defensive line that have come out of Georgia that have gone into the NFL. No. Ringo's not a D lineman. I'm talking about a bunch of D linemen that have come out, right? Out of Georgia. Pretty good talented kids. Yeah, Crowley, right? So when you're at Georgia and you got what? How many players? 7 deep? And you've got to constantly, if you're Kirby Smart, You've got to constantly be re-recruiting, and you've got to constantly be teaching, hoping your guys don't transfer. What are you going to do? You're going to rotate as many guys as you possibly can to keep those guys and give those guys playing time, right? Because you don't want them going to Clemson. You don't want to go to Miami. You don't want them going to Texas A&M. You don't want them going to Michigan State or someplace. You want to make sure that they're getting proper playing time, especially if they're quality kids that you know are going to be guys that are going to go in the top 3 rounds. You don't want to lose those players. Those are frontline kids. If you got guys on your football team that can go in the top 3 rounds and you're Georgia, you're going to have a massive rotation. This is why Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter are not prepared for the NFL. They're not prepared. Why? Because they don't play a lot of plays. They may play 30 plays a game because they're constantly rotating. They're going to start games. They're going to start the second half. They're going to probably, and maybe not at times, finish games because they're going to be so far ahead that you're going to put the backups in. It hurt their preparation for the NFL. When I played in college, it was a different era. It's a different era. I played 90 snaps a game. You know what Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter probably play at Georgia? 30. That's not even a half. That's like a quarter and a half of games to me. Okay? You've got to be in better shape to play 75 plays a game. You've got to over-prepare yourself so that if they call on you and you need to play 71 snaps, you need to play 71 snaps. I never wanted to come out of games. You weren't I had Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind me. I didn't give a shit. You weren't taking me out. I didn't come out of games. I was not coming out of games. Neither was Jerome. Only time we came out of games is if we were up and Butch Davis came to us or Dave Wannstedt and said, we'd like to play some of the other guys. Who do you guys recommend? And we would say Russell, Cortez, Jimmy Jones, guys like that. We would hand pick them. Guys that we worked with, guys we trusted. And Butch and Dave would put those guys in. We had Dave Wannstedt on the other day. He'll tell you flat out how we did it. They come to us and ask us, hey, Sills, think Cortez is ready? I go, yeah, put him in. And so he'd get in there. Then these guys would come to me and Jerome and go, what'd you think? Like Russell Maryland would come to us. What do you think? You got to play under your pads more, son. You got to be in better shape. I saw you with your hands on your hips. Have to play 5? No way. What if we go down? I can't count on you for more than 10 plays. Get out of here. Get in shape. Get in shape. Got to be in condition. Sills, the heavy college rotation issue is one of the results of the nil. It is. In the transfer portal, kids don't need to sit and wait. That's why, hey, Bob, when you recruit a kid and get a kid from Bama or Ohio State or them guys, you got to worry whether or not those guys had proper conditioning. When I'm talking gameplay conditioning, not just running on a treadmill. I'm talking about guys that have played a ton of snaps and that were just as good at the beginning of the game versus the back end of the game. Hey, it's one thing to play great in the first quarter. It's another thing to fall apart in the fourth when I probably need you the most. Jordan Davis played 45% of the snaps in 2023. He'll have to play what Vita Vea played at least. That's 55%. Now, look, Forrest, it's a different game. 45% of the snaps? Fuck, man. I would hate that. You're telling me, man, I'm playing less than 10 plays? Like, of the 10 plays that you have, I'm playing 4 of them? Maybe 5? Phew. Get me out of that. I'm playing 90% of them snaps. You think you take Aaron Donald out of the game? It'll take Aaron Donald out of the game. Remember something. If you're a superstar in the NFL, you don't get taken out on third down on both sides of the ball. On both sides. The money down is third down. If you're sitting on the sidelines and it's third down, whether you're a defender or you're an offensive player, you got a problem. You mean to tell me I'm not on the money down? You're not on the field for the money down. That's right, Yale. You're playing well. You're yanking that kid out? No way. I'm not yanking that kid out. You think I'm yanking Jerome Brown out of a football game? If he's destroying a guy like Troy Aikman, hey, get this. This is what the mentality is today, and this is why these guys aren't prepared to play like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. I watched this guy, Jerome Brown, this guy here, Jerome Brown. I watched this guy in a game at Memorial Stadium at Oklahoma have 20 tackles, block a field goal, an interception, broke Troy Aikman's leg, had a fumble recovery, blocked a punt, had 3 sacks, ate that team up personally alive from the first snap to the last snap. And he was 325 pounds. I sat down and I sat there and I went, and he looked over at me we're in the locker and I go, he looked at me, goes, what? I go, I've never seen anything like that. I'll never play that great. I've played great games. I'll never play that great. I've never seen anything like that. One man single-handedly broke Aikman's leg, forced him to transfer to UCLA, had an interception, 3 sacks, a fumble, blocked punt, blocked field goal. I mean, it's kind of, and at Memorial Field, where they hadn't been beat at home in their home opener in 25 years. The whole fan base at Oklahoma was like this. What is going, this, you've never seen anything like it. It was like a tornado. I sat there next to him and looked at him and said, I'll never see anything like that again. He goes, this is my best game. I go, well, I sure hope so. he goes, why? I go, because I'll never. And I out-tackled him that year. I had more tackles than him that year. And I watched him destroy a team. You watch guys today like Jordan Davis run out of gas after 5 plays. That's what aggravates me. That's what totally aggravates me. 5 plays, you're out of gas. You can't play for us, dude. You could never play Cortez Kennedy, Russell Maryland, Jerome and us, Warren Sapp. You could never play with us. You would never see the field. But then again, those guys would be in a different environment because they know they had to be in shape, and they probably would play. Damn, years later, another broke Aikman up. Broke his ass up, man. Carter has similar talent. Get in shape then. Not a fan of soft practices like no tackling. Hey, think about it too, Forrest. How the hell can you practice tackle and angle of pursuit and pursuit drills when at the end of the day, get this, you don't practice it? How do you know how angle and pursuit drills and tackle drills and pass rush drills when you don't practice them? You're in helmets and shorts and you have no contact because you're worried about concussions. That's why the game is slower out of the gate at the beginning of the season. That's why. Okay? By the way, don't forget Jason Cole at the bottom of the hour. Let me me put this in perspective here again. Your football team has more. I want to make this clear. The Eagles have more upside than any time in 3 years. It's true. That's not the best statement, though. I don't want to have all that upside like that because there's 15 question marks to it. So if I hit on 4 of them, is it good? If you're a good team, do you have 15 question marks heading into your season? Right guard, will it pan out? Well, I'm feeling pretty good because it's Stoutland. That's not what I asked you. Okay? And like, again, not that ESPN is anybody. I think it's a socialist network. I really do. You see their top 5 list for the best athletes. Who'd they have? Messi, Serena. That's somebody else up there. Then they had LeBron before Brady. LeBron James has had a better career in the 21st century than Tom Brady. How do you come with that? He's won more. He's won more championships. He's won more MVPs. He's the best player in his position, and he's the best player that's ever played. And he beat them all. Let's just put it this way. Tom Brady in the 21st century is the best American athlete we have had. It's not LeBron. How could you put LeBron at 4-6 in title games over a guy who doubled up the next guys who won 4 Super Bowls? The kid in Kansas City's coming around, though. He is. But then again, all you got to know is anytime you give the Pat Tillman Award to some dude over in England who I can't even tell you who he is, Prince Willie, or whatever the guy's name is, for like being a hero. Prince Willie. Congratulations, Prince Willie. Willie. Is it Willie or William? I really, Prince Willie? Okay. Prince Willie. Okay. Prince Willie. I like it. All right. Bottom of the hour, we will have our friend, Jason Cole, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. Please hit the like button. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, Philly Godfather will be with us at 5:30. You want to try to get yourself a condominium right there in Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Morocco? That's the guy at 5:30. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. I love Lawrence Taylor. I am a LT fan. I'll always be an LT fan. Always be an LT fan. Lawrence Taylor was arrested again for failing to properly register as a sex offender. He's constantly being retried for his mistake that he made. This was about a prostitute in 2011, I think it was, down in the Tampa St. Pete area. I think we were down there at the time. And I think it had something to do with an underage prostitute. So they say it was a misunderstanding, so he turned himself in. I'll say this to you about Lawrence Taylor. And I'll say it again. Did you actually think some of these guys that are some of these elite players, choir boys? You got to learn to live with that. I would. You ain't winning championships with choir boys. Whistles, don't you want character on your team? Yeah, I don't want a whole team of these guys. But you can't have it both ways. You can't ask a guy to live on the edge the way he does, and play the way he does, the way he thinks. Especially when you're talking about a professional man. Hey, man, I'm not his keeper. That dude's got his own life to live. All I can do is coach him and do the best I can to put him in the right direction, but I'm not going to father him. I'm not going to father a 32-year-old man. That's not my job. I'm going to be as understanding and caring as I can. Can't do that, man. But am I going to kick him off my team? Absolutely not. He gets over his issues, his alcohol, his drugs. I'll do the best I can, but I'm not taking that away from him. Not happening. You think Parcells is the same coach without Lawrence Taylor? He did exactly what I said. Yale. Ask yourself this, Yale. You think Bill Parcells is the same football coach in New York if he doesn't have Lawrence Taylor? And he knew all the things that I just said. He knew all the things that I just said. And he still coached him his entire coaching career. Parcells doesn't win those Super Bowls without LT. You think he knew about the drugs, the prostitutes, the late nights, not going home? What I'm telling you is reality. What you don't want to hear is behind the dark curtain. Not the sex thing. You don't think he was chasing hookers down in New York. They're probably turning a blind eye to it in New York. You think LT's different today than he was when he played with the Giants? That is by far not true. You don't think he knew about the dude? How many times was he pulled over on the George Washington or Verrazano Narrows Bridge with a whore in the car? 30? He left his Ferrari on the highway with a prostitute in it. Well, I'm going to tell you, everything I just said, Parcells also overlooked. I'm just repeating what a Hall of Fame NFL coach did. I'm not kicking that guy off the team. I need him. Yeah, but he does coke and he does blow and he's addicted and, doesn't have the greatest character when it comes to women. I don't care. Isn't that what Parcells did? You think LT's any different now than when he played? Have you read his book? He would go from a crack house all night long, and then he would go into the day, get up in the morning, show up at the Giants practice, go to practice, and go back out again without any sleep, back into a crack house. Parcells looked the other way. Are you looking down on Bill for that now? Was Bill an enabler? Probably. Isn't it funny how I speak to you? You're probably like, damn, Sills, you'd have a cokehead on your team? Why, Bill did. And he knew it. He knew it. Failed numerous drug tests. Got suspended for 4 games. That's chronicled. He's almost banned from the sport. He's failed it twice. Did Bill kick him off the team? Did the Giants punish him? No. Why? Because he was helping them win championships. You think they were looking out for LT's health? Now LT's on an island by himself. Now he looks stupid, shitty. His reputation is in the toilet bowl. They weren't giving a shit about that when he was winning new Super Bowls. LT's his own man. I know the man. Played golf with him down in Fort Lauderdale. Me and Sid Rosenberg used to go play golf with him at his country club. Hey, funny guy to be around. His wife is really good folks. His kids, all that. You'd never know that the issues that he had. He's a good dude to be around. Get this. Some people in here are like, wow, please help Sills. I am. I'm keeping Lawrence Taylor on my football team just the same way your Hall of Fame coach did. You don't like to hear the truth, do you? Can't handle the truth, right? That's what went on. Are you really going to take Lawrence Taylor off the field when I got to play Randall Cunningham? I don't care how many 8 balls he's done. That ain't happening. I got to play Randall this weekend. Hey, LTs have been out all night. Hey, did you hear what he used to say when that HBO special, The Two Bills? And oh, by the way, Belichick's an enabler too. Belichick walks in he goes like this, and I remember because Bill brought it up on The Two Bills. Our heroes are flawed. Absolutely true, Yale. Think about this. But Belichick said, right before a game, it was a Saturday, they were getting ready to play the Redskins. And Belichick walks into Parcells and goes, hey, man, LT was late again to practice. He was late again. He was late again to a meeting. And Parcells turns and looks at him and goes, why'd you start the meeting? Belichick goes like this. Well, oh. He goes, did you start the meeting? He goes, yeah. He goes, why? Well, because why would you start the meeting without Lawrence Taylor in it? Were you trying to teach him a lesson? Not teaching that guy a lesson. That guy's a savant. You don't start a meeting without Lawrence Taylor in it. Now, if Bobby Taylor is late, you fire him. Lawrence Taylor, I'm not starting my team meeting. Oh, was that too rough? Is that too rough? What, do you think this was about kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks? I've got two things here. Before we get Jason Cole on, so it's being reported in The Athletic, the relationship between Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni and the quarterback is still a work in progress. Hurts and Serriani have had disconnects. And this is according to The Athletic. Damn. Right here, baby. The Athletic's reporting that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni don't have a very good relationship. Woo! How you doing? Let's go. Yeah. Isn't that great? My quarterback and my head coach don't get along. There's a disconnect. According to The Athletic, the quarterback and the head coach don't get along. Okay? Damn. Gotta be kidding me. Oh, man. Hey, great way. Hey, Niner all day. Great way to start. Hey, Yale, you think The Athletic, which is now the New York Times' sports section, and the Washington Post has it also in their section, and The Athletic is one of the more revered places that you go for news, is gossip? It's their report. The Athletic reported it. Oh, so The Athletic. Hey, let me type that in. Yale and everybody else calling now The Athletic. And this guy, BJ24, is calling The Athletic gossip. I'm kidding with you, Yale. That's why Sirianni will be fired. Let's go. To the article, Serriani was calling plays last year. Well, they just said this right here. This is brand new. This was 27 minutes ago. Relationship between quarterback Jalen Hurts and head coach Nick Sirianni is still a work in progress. Sirianni and Hurts have a disconnect, or had a disconnect. I'm playing with you, Yale. You know that. Can Sirianni get fired if we have a divisional round close loss? No. I think if he gets the team to the divisional round, they win 12 games, he ain't going nowhere. There's not a chance they fire that. Now, there was a chance that, hey, get this. He's the fourth most likely coach to get fired according to Atlantic City and also Vegas. That's where the money is. Okay? Here's the other piece of news that's now coming out. And it's true. I had to look at it. The Eagles have interest in signing All-Pro DB Justin Simmons. Howie Roseman and company have had talks with Eddie Jackson's camp as they continue to look at the safety position, but are not willing to pay top dollar at the moment for the current market price for Justin Simmons. So currently for Justin Simmons is a money thing. So we'll talk more about that. Let me write that in here about Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is 31 years old. He was second-team All-Pro, played with Vic Fangio in Denver, along next to Patrick Surtain II. So would it make sense? Plays that cover and contain defense. It would make sense here. Before I bring Jason Cole up, I want to ask, and I want to reiterate one thing to you. Jason Cole's got a tough job. Because here, Lawrence Taylor was arrested yesterday for failing to register as a sex offender because he was moving. He was moving around in his house, from house to like moving homes. That's according to Sid Rosenberg, who's told me that it was kind of like you have to register. And it's funny, I always tell people this. They go, oh, look at LT, something in 2011 for a prostitute. Well, you still have to register. They find you guilty, you have to register. But you know what I always say? Everyone likes to throw LT under the bus. Remember something about Bill Parcells. He don't win those 2 Super Bowls in New York without him. He knew about the horse. He knew about the coke. He knew about all the cars that were left on the highway at Verrazano Narrows, the prostitutes in the car. He knew all about that. So Bill, it's like, you know, when you take a look at like Tony La Russa, I didn't know anything about McGuire having steroids or Canseco steroids or Giambi, and he's in the Hall of Fame. It's funny how these guys sometimes just kind of like deflect. By the way, Parcells was an enabler too. Am I taking LT off the field playing against the Eagles and I got to play Randall Cunningham? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So how do you manage that when you're a guy like Jason and you got to look at that and you look at him and you go, hey, the guy's a great coach. But again, you don't win those titles without LT. And LT didn't have the greatest character of all time. Again, is it about character? Is not. So when you throw him under the bus, that's part of Parcells being under the bus with him. Let's bring Jason Cole in here. Tough job you have, my friend, at times when it comes to having to decipher through all that.
Well, I mean, whether you put a guy like that in the Hall of Fame or not?
Whether you put him on the first ballot.
Well, I mean, I didn't vote the year that LT went in. There was a lot of argument among the voters about it. I remember Paul Tagliabue, you know, they came out with that stance that it was only stuff that happened on the field, which is, you know, kind of mumbo jumbo kind of stuff. I mean, but at the end of the day, I voted for Ray Lewis on the first ballot. And
was it hard for you to?
No, not really. Because if you're going to tell me I'm only voting based on, you know, basically his performance on the field, I'm willing to accept that one, right? Because I don't know what really happened. Nobody's ever really found out what happened that night. 2 guys are dead. You don't know a lot of the facts. Now if you bring to me Darren Sharper, who has a Hall of Fame caliber resume.
He does.
The answer is a hard no on that one. If you brought OJ Simpson to me today, hard no on that one. But at the time, he got in the Hall of Fame. It's always difficult.
It really is. I mean, you're in a position where you want some type of character in the program, in the conversation. But then you also have to look at it like this. You know, is it really between the hash marks? Does it really encompass everything? And I think that's sometimes why when I look at you, Jason, I see some of the people that get in. I don't know what the metric is every year.
There's no metric. Len Pasquarelli, former NFL writer, longtime NFL writer, once said to me, the Hall of Fame is a smell test. It's not based on, you know, like, yeah, there are numbers that you bring up that, you know, some of them are just overwhelming, right? But at the end of the day, you get down to it, it's like, is this guy a Hall of Famer or not? And you just have to decide. And we argue and fuss and fight about it. And there's a few guys, again, there's a handful of guys where it's like, yeah, that's no doubt. You know, like, why are we wasting our time talking about a Brett Favre or a Peyton Manning? And Brett Favre's transgressions off the field, are questionable as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean, including when he played,
absolutely.
not just the recent scams, the felony.
No, they've
scams.
extended.
Yeah, there's stuff from when he played, but it's not enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. And in LT's case, I don't know where exactly the line is. But the sex offender stuff was after he was voted in.
Yep.
His transgressions during his career, which are well known,
We're drug related.
I mean, we're drug related. They're mostly self-damaging, not.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Phil Simms is a good dude, right?
I love him.
I mean, he'll laughingly tell you the story about LT getting handcuffed to the bedpost the night before a game, and they had to go get they had to take apart the bedpost to get him out, but he still had the handcuffs on when they went to team breakfast, right? And he's like wearing a coat and he's looking, hey, Sims, and he's like laughing about it. Well, the old saying with the Giants was, and Belichick will tell you, get him to Sunday. Just get him to Sunday. Like, whatever it takes, get him to Sunday. Yeah, LT used to fall asleep during meetings in front of Belichick all the time. He'd like lay down on the floor underneath the table because he was so tired from all the partying he'd done the night before. He'd sleep through meetings all the time. When he got addicted to golf, after he went through rehab, he used to yell at Parcells, say, practice better end now, because I got a tee time, Parcells. I got a tee time. And Parcells is like, run this play, like we got practice that, like do that kind of stuff, right? Because LT was that good.
Oh.
He just, he was just that great. And
Absolutely.
he's a standard bearer for playing that position, right? He is one of the few guys who I can legitimately say changed how the game is played and did it for a long time, because even when you designed how to block for him, you couldn't block for him. But it's just not the cleanest resume in the world, but he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
oh my God.
Let's not get sideways on this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's probably the greatest football player that's ever lived without having touched the football here. And speaking of Belichick, you make the comment there. Jeremy Fowler has reported now that of all the jobs potentially in 25, Bill, and it looks like Bill wants to be a head football coach, it's the Philadelphia Eagle job. Do you think that would be someplace? Again, remember, the last thing for him to chase down is Shula. That's the last thing. Winning a Super Bowl would just be maybe adding to the point where he would equal Brady, and winning a Super Bowl would put that conversation a little bit back in center. Or how important do you think that stuff is to him? And do you think the Eagles would be the perfect fit for him if it comes down to it that Nick Sirianni ends up getting fired? By the way, Vegas says he's the fourth most likely coach by the end of the year to be fired. So, I mean,
well, let's not fire him now.
We can
hold on. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I thought, I'd hire Belichick in a heartbeat. Whether I'm worried about breaking Shula's record or whether I'm worried about winning a championship, I want that guy in my building running my team, right? I'm a Belichick fan. That said, I know that you got to have great players. Right? He's never won a title without great players. Okay, well, get in line. Andy Reid's only won a title with Patrick Mahomes because that's what it takes, right?
Yep.
There aren't many guys who cover up that position particularly well. So how does he fit in Philly is an interesting question, because how much does Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman, how much do they combine put up with Belichick? Because look, he's ornery. I mean, he's not an easy guy to deal with.
And he's not cheap. He's going to be a $20 million.
Yeah, but Jeff Lurie, I don't think Jeff Lurie is ever worried about money.
No, I don't either. I think
so the money's not going to. The question is, do you feel like you have a 3 or 4 year window with this team, which I think the Eagles do have, right? They have this year and then a couple more years, and we'll see how Sirianni handles this year. But you've got this time period that you got to take advantage of, and can Belichick do that for you and do it really fast? I would bet on it. I would. You give me a good enough quarterback, you give me all the other weapons, let him run the show. Yeah. My problem is I'm not sure how much Howie and Jeff let the coach run the show, because they have interfered a lot.
But I've been shocked to hear, and Jimmy Johnson said this, that Howie has a really great relationship with Bill, and that Jeffrey Lurie, Jeffrey Lurie tried buying the Patriots. He tried buying.
He tried to buy the Patriots, but
he's like a big Boston guy. So I mean, he's got a lot.
He taught at BU. He taught at Boston University. His son went to Harvard. He went to Boston University too. The family's got business there too. So I mean, look, Jeffrey Lurie has a lot of ties to New England. Again, there's a difference between having a relationship with somebody and being able to work with them.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? Like, there are a lot of guys I really, really like out there, writers, editors, people I've met along the way. I wouldn't necessarily want to work for them or with them. Right? Like, it's, there's a difference there. And
like an NFL locker room, not everybody in the locker room, hey, you help me win, we're good. But after that, we're not breaking bread here. That's not.
Yeah. Now you hope that you can break enough bread that everybody gets along. It's okay. We can have some team meals together, maybe go out once or twice, but we're not hanging. It's.
So we're not seeing you hang out at an RNC convention. Is that right, Jason?
That ain't happening. So I love you, man. I love you. I love you, but I do your show like every week or so. And
I know. Me and him, the only place is going to be Panera Bread. RNC, that ain't happening, Sills.
No. And you ain't coming to the DNC, too.
No, not happening.
No. That's okay. That's okay. I'm all right with that.
I got you, too. Let me throw this one here. God, I keep hating to say this about this Kansas City team. I am not a believer you can win 3 in a row. There's just too much that has to go right. However, for Andy Reid, what does that mean for him if his guy delivers a 3rd championship? The last coach to do that was Lombardi. The 65 NFL title and the first 2 Super Bowls were the last time a team won 3 titles in a row.
And Curly Lambeau did it too, right?
Yeah, he did it back, I think, in
way back. Yeah,
back in the 30s, or maybe even the late 20s. He did that.
Yeah, I think, is there one other team that won 3 in a row? I'm trying to remember if there's another.
I think Washington maybe have done that.
I gotta look that up. But
the last team is that Packer team.
It would be the greatest accomplishment ever by a head coach.
He's in the conversation with Lombardi when you're saying that, and Curly Lambeau.
It's the greatest accomplishment any head coach and quarterback will have ever done if it's done.
Would you think more of him than Belichick?
No, not necessarily. They're equal. They're equal but different. I look what Belichick did.
He did take Philly to 5 straight NFC Championship games.
Yeah, he did. I love Andy Reid. Here's the thing. If you're telling me that there's 2, like, if you and I are competing to hire a head coach, and the 2 guys on the board are Belichick and Reid, I'm probably looking at going, Sills, you can have first pick. I'm good. I'm good with the second pick. I'm okay. I'll be all right. Now, who am I picking? I'm probably still picking Belichick. I'm probably still doing that because I think
more organizationally there for you. That's why.
I think there was a consistency, in big games, how they won, that I'll just take. I mean, there's more of them. There's more accomplishment. So you go with the guy who, in that case, one more of them. I mean, Andy missed some opportunities. There's also things that Reed still does clock management wise that drive me a little insane, right? But everything else about him is grade AA+.
Okay, let me go over here with the 49ers, in your opinion here, on Brandon Ayuk. I personally think
not going
Ayuk,
anywhere. Not
that's
going
what
anywhere.
I said. I don't think he's going anywhere. New England supposedly kicked the tires on it today.
Not
I would
going
say
anywhere.
You don't believe it?
No, if you want to trade for Deebo Samuel, they might do that.
Why are you so sold that they're more apt to get rid of him than than move Ayuk?
Because the Samuel plays a style that doesn't hold up long term. He's a running back playing wide receiver, which he gets beat up a lot more. He misses more games. He's aging out. 2 years ago, when he did the contract holdout and he showed up, he was not in shape, which pissed him off. He was not in shape the whole year, and they were pissed off about it. Because they gave him a contract extension, he wasn't ready. I mean, he's a great football player. I love Deebo Samuel, but he's the kind of player who, when he loses that step, I think it's going to be very hard for him to continue playing at a high level. I mean, that's true of 95% of the guys in this league, but I don't think he can make up for it some other way. And I don't think that Ayuk is a number one receiver either, right? But you have to keep certain guys. I think the plan for the 49ers is sign Ayuk, play out one more year with Deebo, and either trade or let go of Deebo at the end of the year. And that's where we're going. And then because they've got to cycle those guys out. I can tell you this right now, that they don't like paying two wide receivers that kind of money, just like Philly doesn't like paying two receivers that kind of money, but they have to. And the other thing about it is, and this is weird, but like Kyle Shanahan, they paid Deebo all that money, and then he complains about him being not a great route runner. It's like, he's never been a great route runner. That's not what Deebo Samuel does. Deebo Samuel takes a ball in stride and outruns people because he runs like a running back. Or you run those low receiver screens and he runs through traffic.
He plays schoolyard football.
Yeah, but because again, he's built to be a running back, which is why they have played him there when they've had to, and why he's been effective playing that way. He's a great player, but I'll just say that Kyle Shanahan, between having to pay him the money you have to pay him and not wanting to pay receivers that kind of money, because his dad won championships with cheaper receivers like Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey. Because of that, he doesn't like it, and he's starting to get picky about Deebo's route running. And so I think that everything points toward Deebo is the guy who's going to be out. I just don't think that they're trading Ayuk no matter what, and especially now with Pearsall being hurt. But I just think that when a team is this close to winning, they want to keep every part. Now, the one thing I would say for the 49ers is learn your lesson about what you did with Bosa last year. You made him wait all training camp, and he wasn't sharp.
No.
Most of the season. He was that quarter of a second off. And as a defensive lineman, that quarter of a second means everything.
It was reps.
Right? Yeah. I don't know where you get it, but I know that when you don't have it, it's so hard to make that up and to find it. And he didn't have it last year, except for some critical times when there was urgency. But his timing was bad, like 90% of last season.
Absolutely.
He played okay, but his timing was not great.
Let me throw this here with Aaron Rodgers. Do you think Aaron Rodgers still has it?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
you think they'll be a playoff contender team this year, the Jets?
Yes, I do think that the Jets are a playoff contender. I think the Jets
serious playoff contender, like if you get them in the postseason.
No, I just to get in the playoffs contender. I don't think they have enough. Now, we'll see.
Depends on the war of attrition too. The other teams are not such.
Well, that's always what it's about,
right? Right.
But look, that defense is going to play great football. What did they win last year? They won 8 or 9 games last year.
I think 7. I thought they won 7.
All right,
ball
maybe
games
all right,
last year.
7 and 10. I looked it up. I remember looking it up a couple weeks ago because I had forgotten, and now I've forgotten again. But look, they won 7 games with complete garbage at quarterback last year, right? Garbage offense. I mean, if you just get an average offense with them, they win 10, 11 games, right?
Yeah.
You just need to be average. And I think that they'll be better than average, which means they win more games. That's my opinion. And they become a contender. So
you think they're a threat to win the AFC East?
I still think Buffalo is a more complete team, but Buffalo has its issues. Miami just their personnel went backwards, losing Watkins and some of the other guys that they lost this offseason, and they're top heavy. Like I'll say this for the Dolphins, why they can win the division is they are built for regular season play.
Yeah.
Because you're built to score points.
Yep.
And the regular season is all about scoring. The postseason is about defense. Now, the Jets were able to play enough defense to make themselves competitive and win 7 games last year, but they didn't have anything close to enough offense.
Is the key in the AFC, and I mean the entire AFC, does it come down to Joe Burrow's wrist?
No, look, Kansas City is still the best team in the conference, right?
Well, I saw Cincinnati last year pound the Niners into submission.
Yeah,
and
when they didn't have Trent Williams, and they didn't, they weren't playing.
Fair enough. It was during that slide, the Browns they lost to. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's fair too. But if Joe Burrow is standing up straight this year, are those the 2 teams in the AFC, in your opinion? Or is Baltimore in that conversation too? Is it a 3-team race in the AFC?
Look, Burrow's better than Lamar Jackson. And not by a mile, but he's better, right? In the same way that Josh Allen's better than Lamar Jackson, but not when Josh Allen is throwing the ball over the yard, right? Yeah. So, like, you take it like Patrick Mahomes is way up here, right? He's number 1, and then there's a gap. It's not a huge gap, but it's a gap, right? It's a gap from here down to you get Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson's chasing it.
Yeah.
And then there's a next group with like Aaron Rodgers in that
Golf.
next group. I'm just talking the AFC.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm just Herbert, Rodgers, because you don't know about the injury. Maybe Stroud's in there, like who's in that next tier, and that next tier could move up. But I don't think the guys who are like Lamar, Allen, and Burrow, I think they're strongly right there, and they can challenge Mahomes to be the best one. They can challenge. I mean, not Lamar, but Allen and Burrow can challenge Mahomes. And basically Mahomes, confusing this, Jackson can challenge Burrow and Allen if they're not completely sharp. So it's sort of that's how that group lines up. Yeah, it's kind of a matchup kind of situation. And who's hot and who has the defense going their way, who's getting breaks, things like that. But like last year, Josh Allen, you can't turn the ball over that much. You can't be sloppy. You can't put your defense in problematic situations time after time after time and expect them to bail you out. That's just the way it is, right? So that allowed Lamar Jackson to close the gap during the regular season. And then Josh Allen was the usual Josh Allen in the playoffs.
Last 2 questions for you here. Are the Houston Texans the best team in the state of Texas?
Yes. I don't even think that's really much of a question.
Wow. You think that – you know what's funny? Jace, when I talk to some people about the Cowboys, they see 12 wins. When you and me talk, we see massive problems on both sides of the football.
Well,
Playing the run, the second wide out, the player's not signed. I mean, I don't know what
here's the difference. I think Dallas can win 12 games. They can go 12-5. They could also go 8-9, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know what they are. I don't know how they're going to show up. I don't know if their defense is going to hustle and play as hard. How's Dak going to react to all of this? There's just so much. There's so much chaos around the Cowboys all the time because Jerry likes the chaos. He likes the soap opera. I think with Houston last year, you saw a team that, like, they made two great additions. Stroud was off the charts great, right? And he's a better player than Dak. Okay. And Anderson didn't get the kind of accolades and the kind of respect that he deserved, but he played really well last year. I thought, that he was terrific on the edge. Not great, not walk in just being a star, but he was terrific and showed me that he's going to be an excellent player down the line. I just, between those two guys and the other guys that they have already, guys like Tunsil, guys, the depth of that roster, I just like what they are top to bottom. And the other thing is, I love the coach. I think people play hard for that guy. I think they love that guy, they respect him, and they play really, really hard for him. You just look at the way the San Francisco defense played for him on a regular basis. It was a big, D'Amico Ryans is a leader of men.
Absolutely. I love him. I mean, dude, final question for you here. Jason, can a player who was considered almost a slam dunk Hall of Famer play himself out of that
Yes.
thought process like Russell Wilson? Do you think the next couple of years is going to determine Russell Wilson if he's going to be considered a serious candidate for a Hall of Fame? Like, I guess I'm saying, can you play yourself out of being what the people thought 4 years ago about you, where you were a surefire Hall of Famer and you were going to Canton, to now where people are like, is that guy a Hall of Famer?
Well, you work in Philly, right?
Yeah.
I'll say one name to you, Donovan McNabb.
It's funny you bring that up because it just came to my mind that McNabb early in his career, getting to all those conference championship games, carrying that football team on his back, and then watching him late fade down the stretch, you were like, he's on the step, but I don't think he pushes the door in. And I'm starting to think that way with Russell Wilson, that he may knock on the door, but the door's not going to open.
It's a tough one, man, because there were some moments in Seattle where you were like,
oh,
and there are numbers, man, in Seattle. There are some numbers in Seattle that are outstanding. Where Donovan's numbers, when you go back and look, there's some ratio things that are terrific and stuff like that. But the pure numbers, the 35, the 40 touchdown passes aren't there with Donovan. But I still thought Donovan McNabb was going to be a Hall of Famer. And then he went to Washington, like the last year in Philly, losing the job out to Vic. It just went like that. And Russell Wilson is going, like it's a crash right now. And it's hard to watch. So it could happen. He could play his way out of the Hall of Fame.
Like when I think of Phillip Rivers, I saw Phillip Rivers play with the Colts and knock on the door, knocking a team off. I forget when they almost knocked off in the playoffs. And he's ripping that ball down the field, and I'm going like, I got to tell you something about Phillip Rivers, man. He may not have had the great organization around him like Eli had or Ben in that 2004 draft. They went to the right places. They had some good talent early with those football teams, those Charger teams. They probably should have beat the Patriots in that one AFC title game with Marty. But outside of that, it was all him, like Dan Fouts. That guy, when I look at him, and the more I look at quarterback play, that dude's a Hall of Famer, man. When I look at Russell Wilson, with the win, too, and the Super Bowl appearance and the screw-up by Carroll, that guy was in greater moments. And I go, I don't know, man. Rivers is way better.
Rivers he's a better pure quarterback than Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson has some special qualities, which is why we're talking about a guy who should have been on track to the Hall of Fame. I'll say this for Phillip Rivers, because I'm leaning towards him being a Hall of Famer. I haven't made up my mind because I don't have to yet. Right? I just haven't done it. But I'm leaning that way towards him being a Hall of Famer.
Over Eli?
Look, Eli's got the 2 signature wins. And you can't let that go. You got to give him credit. And
who would you want to start your team with, Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers?
Do I know I'm going to win 2 Super Bowls?
No. Who are you going to start your team with?
That's the tough one, man. I'd probably pick Phillip Rivers.
Think about that. You guys are going to put a guy in the Hall of Fame, and you're going to put a lesser player in the Hall of Fame over a guy who.
But I don't know it's a lesser player, because I think a lot of Eli. I go back to this. There's a difference level of concentration. It's the joke I always tell about Eli Manning. Eli Manning played most of his career like he woke up on a Saturday morning at the fraternity house after the mega kegger on Friday night and went to play the intramural game, right? And you know what I'm talking about, okay? You didn't play in the IM games, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
He was still hungover. He was one of your boys. You went out and watched him, and he could throw 5 touchdown passes, and then, chug a couple of beers at halftime, right? At the game, and be a star. Or he could throw 5 interceptions sometimes. But Eli was incredibly unique because he held up his end of the bargain, won the 2 Super Bowls, and he did it in New York. There's a mental toughness to Eli Manning to being able to play his career that way, which goes vastly underappreciated. Okay, because the flip side of that is Phillip Rivers. As hard as he played and as effectively and as consistent as he was, he played his career mostly in San Diego, where there's just not a lot of,
consistency.
Well, no, there's not. He didn't get the support from management the same way he should have. But the other side is there's not the glare. Like, there's not the fans chewing it. Like, most people in San Diego are like, oh, cool. Phillip, you were awesome, dude.
No, I covered him for 5 years. I covered him for 5 years, and it was I personally love the guy. I mean, and I'm a little bit more partial to the guy. So I really do. And I've told him this. If you had Jerry Reese and you had Tom Coughlin, I think you win 5 Super Bowls in New York.
He might have. But it's hard to say. I'll say this: if Eli gets in, I'll make a really hard argument because Phillip Rivers played an incredibly consistent career. But then you put in Russell, you put Russell Wilson up there, and I think Phillip Rivers was a better player. But again, Russell Wilson has some amazing numbers, some amazing performances. But yeah, the last 2 years, wow, dude, like. It's really fallen off, and you better get it together in Pittsburgh because, like, they're going to build something that caters to you. Between Arthur Smith and what Mike Tomlin does, they're going to build something that caters to the way you want to play.
I want to sneak one more in on you. 83 draft quarterbacks or the 2004 draft? Roethlisberger, Eli, and
80, it's still 80. It's still 83.
Elway, Marino, Kelly.
Kelly. And then,
I mean, even Eason was decent. I mean,
Eason was decent. How about Ken O'Brien wasn't so bad, right?
That's the guy I meant. Ken O'Brien actually had a winning record versus Dan Marino.
Yeah, Ken O'Brien's a good player, man.
Couple Pro Bowls himself. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real good player. 4 out of 6 had.
Tony Eason got to a Super Bowl.
Half of those guys made the Hall of Fame. A fourth one had a very good career. Maybe not great, but a very good career. Another one got to a Super Bowl, got overwhelmed, but, the Bears were going to do that to anybody. There's only one guy who...
Yeah, Blackledge.
Blackledge is the only guy in that draft, and even Blackledge knew he wasn't that guy. Like, I love the story from that ESPN thing, where they from Elway to Marino,
yeah.
And Todd Blackledge comes on, he goes, "I got drafted by Marino." He goes, no, I got drafted on Marino. Like, what happened? Like, how'd that happen? Like, even he knew, right? Like, I mean, so only one of those guys was bad. I mean, so that's an incredible class. And,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Plus, you had Dickerson and all the rest of the guys that were in. Bruce Matthews was in that thing here. Even Billy Ray Smith had a really good career. There's a ton.
it's the 83 draft. In terms of the first round of the 83 draft, I think is like 7 or 8 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, like the last pick in the draft was the Washington guy,
Darryl Green.
Darryl Green was the last pick from Texas A&I.
Yeah. Oh, it's an amazing draft. It's Kurt Warner is in that draft.
Kurt Warner from Penn State, right?
Yeah, who had a terrific career.
Eric Dickerson was in that draft.
Yeah, Dickerson. I mean, Dickerson, Hall of Famer. Matthews, Hall of Famer. Darryl Green, Hall of Famer. There's 6 right there, and I think I'm missing a couple of guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an amazing
either
draft.
Jimbo Covert or Keith Van Horn. One of those two were in that draft, maybe.
Oh, it's Covert. It's Covert from.
It's Covert. Yeah, Jimbo Covert out of Pitt. He was in that. That's right, because he.
You should before you sign off. You should look up the '83 draft. Just look at the names. It is a stunning draft. There are very few bad picks.
Let me pull this up here because that was my freshman year in college, believe it or not. 1983 NFL draft. Yeah, that was my freshman year. Okay, so Elway goes 1. First 2 picks are Hall of Famers. One is Elway, the second pick is Dickerson. The third pick is Warner. Hey, Chris Hinton had some Pro Bowl years. He was
Chris Hinton is a borderline.
Yeah.
If he wasn't part of the Elway trade, he would have maybe been a consideration for a Hall of Famer because he has that many Pro Bowlers, right? Pro Bowls. Billy Ray Smith, good player. Jimbo Covert, excellent player. Todd Blackledge, no, not good. Michael Haddock's not good. Bruce Matthews, Hall of Famer.
Best lineman I ever played against.
Yeah, Terry Kennard was a really good player. Tim Lewis was a really good player until
if he doesn't get hurt, Tim Lewis is on a projection to be a Hall of Fame player.
Right. Tony Hunter was a good tight end. James Jones, just a guy, but that's all right.
Kelly.
Jim Kelly, Hall of Famer. Tony Eason, solid career. Pitts was okay. Leonard Smith, solid player. Willie Gault. Yeah, and then you get to this. Here's 3 out of 4. Joey Browner, Gary Anderson, people that sleep on Gabe Rivera, who was great his rookie year and then got in the car accident.
Paralyzed.
Gilbert, great player. Jim Jeffcoat, really good player. O'Brien, we talked about. Dave Remington, okay, steroids guy, didn't work out. Don Mosbar, really great.
Fantastic player.
Right. And then they finished the last 2 picks, Marino and Darryl Green, Hall of Fame.
How about this? You start the draft with 2 Hall of Famers, and you end that draft with the 27th and 28th pick with Hall of Famers.
Yep. And 7 guys make it because Covert made it. I mean, it's just it's a load. That's that's 28 teams. So 25, a quarter of that draft made the Hall of Fame, and then another quarter of that draft was consistent Pro Bowl
all
players.
pros, Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, right. And then a bunch of the other guys who weren't are still good players who, by bad luck, injury, whatever you want to call it, didn't make it. Right.
We're gonna say, hey, look at the second rounders. You had Leonard Marshall, you had Henry Ellard, you had Darryl Talley,
Wes Hopkins. Philly knows Wes.
Randy
Hopkins.
Grimes was a good player in Tampa.
Darryl Talley, Keith Bostic. I mean, that's Roger Craig, who's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Dave Durson in the third.
Yeah. No, it's a great. That's
got to be the greatest draft. The '83 draft has to be the greatest draft of all time.
Yeah, the depth of it is amazing. Yeah, I mean, the depth of that draft is just astounding. It's not
Absolutely.
Now, right? It's different from when we talk about Pittsburgh in '74. That's a whole different thing. But the overall draft in '83 just loaded. Just
loaded with superstar Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers. Jason,
All right, man.
Superior conversation today. 4 days to the Eagles go to camp. Guys are showing up now as we speak, so we're on the runway getting
Bring
ready.
in Bill Belichick. Bring in Bill. Hire him now.
Hey,
It should be like the Democrats with Biden. Get a new guy now. Get a new guy now. Do
so
it.
wait, I watch one guy get an assassination attempt, and I'm watching a coup right in front of me. American politics, hot and heavy right now, brother.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
See you later, my friend. The great Jason Cole, Hall of Fame voter. Hit the like list. Philly Godfather. You want to earn some money, baby? This is where you do it. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your greenhouse? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Our friend Philly Godfather is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Please hit the like button. I thought Dana White was a GOAT last night. I thought he was a GOAT. I loved how that guy doesn't give a shit what people think about his personality, who he is, what he's going to do. That guy could care less about COVID. Bulldogged right through it. Didn't give a shit. You don't want to have fans? I don't care. I'm putting UFC on. We're not stopping anything here. We're not doing that. Turned out to be right in the end. This guy is balls, gut, and brains. 3 dynamics you need to have to be successful in life. Got to have guts. You can't row out to sea with one foot on the beach and say you're rowing out to sea, which most people like to do. This guy rows out to sea with no oars. You got to have the balls to do that. Got to be scary every night. Like the Krauses, when owning a business, man, that's got to be scary. Got your shit on the line, got your name on it, got your reputation on it. By the way, when you're in media business, prepare to lose two things: money and some of your name. There's no way around it. You're going to lose a lot of money to make money, and you're going to lose a little bit of your reputation because not everyone's going to like you. They're going to say whatever they want about you because that's just the nature of the beast. Nobody in the media business has a clear reputation. I mean, you just don't. Because somebody's going to take shots at it, chip away at it. That's right, man. Balls, guts, and brains. Thank you, Yale. Absolutely. Those are the guys like Dana White. Whether you like Dana, and he is a hardcore Trump guy. Well, you know why I love that? There's hardcore Biden people. You got to have conviction in your beliefs. And the most important thing, you can't have anybody tell you anything different. Man, the people I hate in life are the people that try to convince me to do something that's none of their business. My religion, my politics. I mean, you have no right to talk to me like that. I'm with Jason Cole. Get little Nicky hell out of here. Fourth most likely coach to end up getting blown out, by the way. I just thought Dana White was a goat last night. I love Dana. You know, it's funny. I took a boxing class in Vegas back in the day, and he was the teacher. He was just a teacher. And he was teaching boxing at some gym. Forget the name of it. I posted it on my Twitter page. That guy went from just being like some sort of like instructor to now being worth $400 million. That's who Dana White is. Love the guy, man. I really do. Big time. I found that conversation about the Athletics saying that there was a massive disconnect between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni a year ago. And there was a disconnect, and that their relationship, they're working on it. If you're Jalen and you see how the organization, do you feel better going into 23 than you did coming out of 23? Do you feel better about going into the start of training camp at 24 than you did at the end of the 23 season? Do you feel better? New coordinator, new system. Do you feel, and the guy that you had a problem with. Now, let me say this to you. That article speaks to something. Do you think the front office moved Nick further away from Jalen so that there could be more of a better communication with the offensive play caller? And that was by design. And do you think Jalen Hurts recommended that? That Nick had nothing to do with the offense? Could we possibly say it was Jalen's call and it was his call that said, I don't want Nick anything to do with this offense? How do we know that that wasn't Jalen doing that? How do we know that he didn't go into the front office? Yeah, how do you know it wasn't just this? You know, listen, Howie, you know, at the end conversation that they had, and they asked Jalen what he thought, I'm sure the owner did too. You're paying the guy $51 million. Hey, man, maybe what we need is just one voice in the building. And that was a nice way of Jalen Hurts saying, Nick can't be involved in the play calling. It was too chaotic. There were too many people talking in our ears, telling us two different things on what we were trying to accomplish. One guy wanted to put his signature up, that it was his offense, and the other guy was the play caller. So when the Athletic writes that and puts that out there, maybe it was Hurts that said, you know, dude, we got to get this guy. We got to get this guy out of here. And let's just let Kellen, like Shane ran the show, right, in 22. Too many Indians, not enough Chiefs in there. I don't know how politically correct that is any longer, Niner, but I got you. DFW, ownership moved Nick away, so he would have one voice in Kellen. Plus, they want to see how Kellen and Jalen get along for the next year if Kellen is the head coach. How about that? Maybe it was Jalen Hurts all along. Think about that, Yale. They go to him. You're $51 million guy. What was your biggest problem? Too many voices in the huddle. That's a kind way of saying, what was Nick doing? And so what they did was they took Nick out of the equation. And Nick had to agree to that to come back. Hey, Nick, you're not going to have any say in the play calling. We're going to hire a coordinator. Either it's Kingsbury or Kellen Moore. We're going to go that route. And if you're cool with that, that's kind of the setup we're going to run. And Nick probably went, okay. What did he say? It was in the best thing of the culture of the team, that was going to be in the best interest. Maybe the culture of the team was that Nick was the problem last year, and he got in the way. Why would the Athletic put that out there? That Serriani and Hurts have to mend their differences. That's not me talking. That's an article written by a pretty good established media source in The Athletic. Do you think this is make or break year for Jalen? Kind of. Or do you think the Eagles organization will have more patience with Jalen and Kellen because it's going to take at least 1 year for Jalen to improve? Pete, I think it's going to take that. I know a lot of people in here. Hey, Pete, if they win 11 games this year and they get bounced, but it looks better, I'm coming back with it. Steve goes like this, the National Speculation Show. I'm just reporting what people are reporting. The Athletic is reporting that there is a friction or was a friction between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. That's not my take. That's not speculation. Why would they put that out there? Maybe that's exactly what the Eagles bleed that shit out all the time. Okay? Do you agree, Senor? Who do you think they value more? Well, I think they value the quarterback more. I don't think they value head coaches. Okay? I don't think they value. I don't think they value head coaches as much as they do the players. I don't. There are no leaks. Just what the Eagles tell the media. It's by design. So that's what Senor's saying. It's more so by design. Okay. Fair enough. We move on to the Justin Simmons conversation now. It's now being reported that the Philadelphia Eagles have a strong interest in Justin Simmons. And Simmons is waiting for more money. It's the Eagles would love to have him, but it's a money thing. And they don't want to pay top dollar for Justin Simmons. I think Justin Simmons at 31 years of age, the more you get into training camp, the more you're going to be sitting there. And I think that price goes down prior to going into training camp. I think right now you're at a high volume because if you get into training camp and you start to see some of your young guys like Cooper DeJean playing well, and you sit there and go, I think we can get away with that. And I'd rather, and here's the thing. Do you want to play the young guys? Or do you want to look at guys like Stephon Gilmore and Justin Simmons? Okay? Do you want to do that? Ravens signed Eddie Jackson. I like that sign. Little Nicky has always been the problem. Get the cheerleader bum out of Philly. Boy, That guy's going to have a tough season this year. Don't forget, Philly Godfather is going to join us in a couple seconds. Of course, Twiz. Hey, get this. Twiz wants to extend a guy who, according to Atlantic City and Vegas, has the fourth best chances of getting fired. More power to you, Twiz. Love you, dude. Way to go, brother. Do you think the Eagles panicked last year? I do. After the 49er game, too many people had their hands in the pot, and then the front office blew their whole thing wide open. Being okay with making the playoffs. I don't think they were okay with making the playoffs. Tony, I think just making the playoffs was the thing that almost got that guy fired. I don't think that clearly was enough. Niners go make the playoffs 3 years in a row. Extend Serriani. Yeah, I know why Niner guy wants to do that, because he knows he's a bum. He knows he's a bum. That's why. Yes, sir, baby. Yeah, yes, sir. Holy cow. So wait a minute. Justin Simmons' name is being thrown around. And also, hey, before I bring Philly Godfather in, and boy, I got to tell you, I wonder what the odds are Bronny James being the NBA Rookie of the Year. Hey, I call him Phony James. So, I mean, Phony James, what are the odds of Phony James making the NBA Rookie of the Year award? Shit, I don't even think he makes the rookie game this coming season. So, with further ado, if you guys are looking for a townhouse in South Beach, if you are looking for a yacht like Jeffrey Lurie in the Mediterranean, if you are looking for a nice apartment over the Dan Ryan, looking over Lake Michigan in Chicago, our friend Philly Godfather will bring it to you, because here's the man with the money bags. Here's the man with all the tips that will get you your cash and make you a lot of money. How you doing, brother?
Great, man. Bronny James, 250 to 1 to be Rookie of the Year.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Out of all the list, all the odds, he's the last guy on there. They just squeezed him in there.
Wow.
Anyone's a sucker and bets him.
Absolutely. Phony James, man. Hey, how about this one? So the odds are the fourth coach with the best odds to get blown out is Nick Sirianni. Let me give you here's the odds sheet here for coaches to be fired first. Robert Saleh, Jets, plus 500. McCarthy, Cowboys, plus 600. Matt Eberflus, Bears, and Dennis Allen of the Saints, plus 700. Fourth is Nick Sirianni, Eagles, at plus 800. And Brian Dable, Giants, plus 900. Is the Sirianni bet a good one at plus 800?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be good this year. I like them. Their defense still a little suspect. They're projected to have the 20th ranked defense in the league, but that could change quickly depending on how these young kids perform on the football field. I think his job's safe for now. A couple of those other guys, not so much, but I think they'll be all right. They still got the fifth best offensive line in the NFL, one of the best offenses in the entire league. Yeah, I think he's safe there.
How about Bill Belichick, according to Jeremy Fowler this morning, said that the number one place that Bill would covet to want to coach would be the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025. Say again, you know what? He does a good job. Would you upgrade that, or would the age be too much of a factor at 71 to bring a guy like that in that got your football team to the playoffs 4 years in a row? I think the age probably would play into that, don't you think? I mean, or do you think your Super Bowl window is only 2 years, and that's what you're looking at with Belichick, is that we want to get the best coach we possibly can for the Super Bowl window? How would you look at that? Because the job he would covet would be the Philadelphia Eagle job.
I mean, I think the age is the biggest problem here. No one over the age of 70. I don't think they've ever won anything What's the oldest coach? 68? Was that Bruce Arians that won a Super Bowl?
Something, yeah. I think Bruce was the oldest coach at 68.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have to change all the systems around again. Everyone's gonna have to get acclimated to a bunch of new stuff. Where does that put Vic Fangio? Belichick is a defensive genius. Fangio's probably going to want to run his system. They're going to clash heads. It's just too much to overcome. And how long is it going to take? Well, it's going to take Belichick 5 years. He might be 80 by then. So, yeah, I think this is a solid team. They're on good foundation here with Fangio and their new offensive coordinator. I think Jalen Hurts is laser focused from the reports I'm getting, and he wants it bad. He wants to prove that 2022 wasn't a fluke year. He wants to prove to everyone that that's who he really is. And last year was the fluke season where Baker Mayfield outperformed him. So I'm hearing good things about this Eagles team.
How about the athletic reporting today that there was a disconnect between Serriani and Hurts last year? Do you think there's any carryover over to this year? And this is the athletic reporting that they said that there was a disconnect. And maybe, to your point, think of this, Philly Godfather, maybe one of the reasons why they moved him out of the room when it came to play calling was that was something that Hurts wanted. And so they had only one voice. It's not that he doesn't like Nick. Maybe he just wanted one voice, because how many times did we hear last year Jalen Hurts going, well, here's Nick Sirianni saying it's my offense, but he's the play caller. Maybe there just was too many cooks in the kitchen.
They reported that today?
Yeah.
I thought we reported it last season on your show.
Oh, no, that I know we have been. No. I got that. No, I get it. I'm with you. I know.
I'm just busting your chops, Dan. Obviously, there was a disconnect last season. There was a lot of things going on, which actually more than that now that I'm hearing from people that I know. It wasn't just Hurts and Sirianni. It was a bunch of other players that were clashing heads, especially when the Titanic started to sink. You know what happens. People start pointing fingers and so on. But this is a brand new season. You got Kellen Moore back there, calling the plays. As long as Serriani doesn't, step on his own nuts, he'll be fine, man. Vic Fangio's calling the defensive plays. This is a loaded team. They're favored to win the NFC East at plus 100. Their odds have dropped to win the Super Bowl. Now there's only 5 teams ahead of them. They're at plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl. The Cowboys went to 1,900. Packers are at 1,900. Other than, obviously, the Bills are tied with them, but other than the Bengals, 49ers, the Chiefs, and the Lions, no one has better odds to win the Super Bowl. So this team is stacked. They're ready to go for a run. They're going to win the NFC East. And hopefully, the ball bounces their way. They don't get too banged up during the course of the season. And Hurts has a chance to, to prove that he's MVP worthy.
How about this number here? I want to show you something about it. And tell me what you think of the Lions. Since November 6th of 2022, where they went 8-2 down the stretch. Then last year they went 12-5. This is obviously regular season. Over the last 27 games, they've won 20 ball games. They're 20-7 over their last 27 ball games. And since that same time, where the Eagles, the last 10 games of the year, the Eagles are 18-9. And so you look at Detroit. Are you a believer that Detroit could get to the Super Bowl this year? I mean, are they a stronger bet to get to the Super Bowl than Philly?
Yeah, as of right now, they are. They have the best offensive line in football. Their defense, maybe top 10. Jared Goff, if you look at his numbers, best numbers of any quarterback in the league last season. And like I said, the best offensive line in the NFL. I took Goff to win the MVP at 28-1 this year.
Wow.
I'm giving it to you guys now, on the show. I think he repeats having another big season. Obviously, Mahomes is favorite, and a couple other guys in front of Jared Goff, like Josh Allen and guys like that, and Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson's numbers were pedestrian last season. I mean, Jared Goff put up some real numbers on a real team that, let's be honest, they should have went to the Super Bowl last year. If it wasn't for the coaches at Campbell making some bad decisions, they probably would have ended up in the Super Bowl. So yeah, this team is for real. That division got a lot tougher. Bears got a lot better. The Packers are going to be really good. Minnesota, they're supposed to be good as well. So it's a tougher division than what the Eagles are in. I think the Eagles cruise right by. I think the Cowboys regress. Cowboys still have a top 5 defense, but there's some problems on their offensive line. I think they're projected to have like the 15th best offensive line in the NFL this season, and that's not like the Dallas Cowboys. And Dak Prescott put up some big numbers last year, but a lot of those numbers were against inferior teams, and he padded his stats. I don't think he has a big year like he did last year this season. So I like the Eagles to cruise and win the NFC East this year.
And I think people go to sleep on Goff too. And you know what's happened, in my opinion, with him compared to Dak Prescott? He's become more reliable than Prescott. Here's a guy now that has gone to 2 NFC title games with 2 different teams. He's taken a team to the Super Bowl. And you want to hear something that's even crazier? Like, he's got 6 years of 4,000 passing yards. Hurts hasn't done that at any time in his career. When you look at the numbers, 30 touchdowns he has. I mean, people go to sleep on him, but he's a better version of Kirk Cousins. When you look at the numbers, he's got a winning record in the postseason. Like I said, he's gone to 2 conference titles. Look at all those 4,000 passing yard seasons that he's put together. I mean, it's an impressive list of seasons that he has, and he's one of the more underrated players. And I've never been a Goff fan. I'm not swinging on him. I'm just saying I've not really looked at him. But when you break it down, he's got winning record in the postseason, unlike any other a lot of other players. Jalen doesn't even have that. He's been as accomplished, if not more accomplished than Hurts. He's got to be considered one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC.
Yes. Listen, last year he had 45, 75, 30.
That's crazy great.
30 and 12. And
crazy great.
This year he has the projected number 1 offensive line in football. 2, on the other hand, what was he? 46, 24, 29, and 14. But this year his offensive line is projected to be 18th best in the NFL. I mean, Dak this year, like I said, his offensive line anywhere from 10 to 15th this year projected. He had some big numbers, but they were against bad teams. Josh Allen last year, 43-06, 29-18. His projected offensive line is supposed to be 8th best in the NFL. I can keep going and going. If you look at the offensive line and Goff's numbers, and you're getting 28-1 to win the MVP, I think there's a lot of value there, man, especially on that team.
Absolutely, man. So let me do this. Over under, Eagles, 10.5 wins.
Yeah, I think they go over.
Wow. Okay.
It's right there, but I think they go over.
Steelers, 8.5 wins.
I went over 78 minus 160. So I bet it early, 7.5 minus 160. So 8.5's pushing it, but if you can get an alternate line and go over 8, this way, at least if it lands on 8, you push instead of losing. But I went over 7.5 early.
The Ravens, actually Raiders, over under 6.5.
Raiders? It's a low number. That division got tough, though. I didn't bet it. It's right there, Dan. I don't want to have anyone go out there and bet it if I didn't bet it.
All right.
Well, it's right there. It's borderline.
Carolina Panthers, over under 5.5.
I think they get a little better this year. I would go over 5.5.
Okay. Jalen Hurts, over 3,600 passing yards.
Yeah, he goes over this season.
You know, that's the number Vegas has him at this year.
Yeah,
why would they drop that number down, you think? Is it because of the addition of Barkley?
Yeah, they're gonna look. But I mean, with Kellen Moore calling the plays, I think he's gonna have a big year. I think he's gonna have a big season. And if you do the math, 17 into 3,600, I mean, it's not that much, So I think he goes over.
Yeah, because the guys in Vegas have him at like 3,650.
Yeah.
And that's down from the last 2 years. And I'm just wondering why they think that they would think that the number would not be more with the addition of Kellen Moore and Saquon Barkley. They think it's less.
Yeah.
Well, why would that number swing further down that way, in your opinion?
Well, last year the price was.
Is that based on money?
No, not really. That line really hasn't moved much. It's based on public perception. Last year it was overvalued because he had such a great season the previous year. So the following season, they want to protect themselves, and they raise those numbers higher. And now it's back to where it's supposed to be. But with this offensive coordinator, with the weapons they have on offense, and with his hunger and determination, I think he has a big season.
Tagovailoa, over under 4,200. Last year, he led the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah, he was number 1, 46, 25, 46, 24.
Yeah, like that, somewhere in there.
if he can stay healthy. His offensive line is weak, in the basement of the NFL, projected to be. So that's all about. I wouldn't bet over. And even though it looks very enticing, it kind of looks like a freebie, right? What was the total? 4,200.
4,200.
Yeah, Vegas doesn't give out free money, Dan.
You don't build them castles on the strip for losing bets.
They get you fishing, and that's too easy. I'm jumping on that. And next thing you know, he misses a couple games, and can he go over 4,200? Absolutely. Will he? Probably not.
Kirk Cousins over under 27.5 touchdowns.
That's a lot of touchdowns.
He throws a lot.
What's his offensive line? I don't even know what his offensive.
They're third best.
They're projected to have the third best offensive line.
Yeah, and they've got Bijan Robinson, who had a really good year last year, 900 some yards rushing. He had like 500 yards receiving, had 60 catches. Plus, they got that guy Kyle Pitts. That's down there too. They added a wide receiver down there as well.
Their division's kind of weak too.
That division's weak.
I would lean towards the over, I guess, but I'm not looking to bet it. I mean, I haven't researched it enough anyway, but yeah, I'm not looking to bet it.
Some baseball ones. Are the Phillies still the favorite to win the World Series?
No, I think the Dodgers are. What are they? Dodgers are plus 330, Phillies plus 500, Yankees plus 550, the Orioles at 800, 8-1. I think they win the whole thing, man. I think they win the whole thing. I think they're the most complete team in baseball. I think any inefficiencies that they have, they're going to go out and address them and get whatever they need. And
best GM in the game.
Yeah. I mean, Bryce Harper, other than Ohtani, second favorite to win the MVP. You got 3 of the top, 10 pitchers to win the Cy Young, odds-wise, on the Phillies team.
Wow, it's that close between Ohtani and Harper?
Yeah.
For the MVP?
Yeah, Ohtani's, where's he at? I don't have it. Yeah, it's Ohtani first and then Bryce Harper second.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. The most important one. Chances of Trump winning the White House in November. What are the odds?
It's crazy what they've done to this person, man. It deflates you because, you believe in this country. You take pride in this country. We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And my kids go to Europe every summer, and they're laughing at us. We've become the laughing stock of the world with the current president we have in office. First president ever to be wiretapped, spied on. He's been persecuted, the most investigated man in history, and now they try to take him out. And he's a minus 250 favorite to win the White House as of right now. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago just to unload on him. Last August, when the indictments were coming out, you can get plus 220 on him. Now he's minus 250. I told everyone to bet him. Anytime there's a movement to stop X, you bet on X. And there's been a huge movement to stop this guy. And I keep betting him, and he's made me a ton of money. I lost some money in 2020 when they rigged the election, but that's not going to happen this year.
Hey, what on the Democrat side, who's the favorite?
Kamala.
To face him in November. Is it Joe or is it Kamala?
No, it's Kamala right now. Yeah. Kamala's the favorite. Joe's down to like 8-1 last time I checked. Big Mike's at like 25-1. She's got no shot. She's got no shot. And after that failed attempt on his life, I don't see them trying to rig the election again. So Trump's going to be the next president of the United States of America, and he should be. He should have been the president last time around. This time, you saw the speech he gave last night, one of the best speeches ever. That convention was rocking, Hulkamania, everyone, Kid Rock, you name it.
Hey, I love Dana.
Dana White was off the chart. I've never seen a convention with that much electricity, with that much. And Trump toned it down a little bit, So he's going to be the next president.
Okay, this is going to be the run to November is going to be. Hey, how about let me give you one more. What do you think of the odds that he steps down from the White House on Sunday night, Joe Biden? Because the rumors are that and they're placing bets in Europe. I guess you can do that.
You can do
over
it
in England.
You can do it offshore here too.
You could do it. Okay. There's like betting odds that he's going to step down as president Sunday night.
I mean, he could. Last thing I heard was he's not going to step down as president, but he won't run. So this way Kamala runs and loses, and he can always say, "I told you so." So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure for him to step down, but he's a little hard-headed. He actually believes he got 81 million people to vote for him last time. That's the problem. He's so freaking delusional. He really believes that. Like at this point, if anyone still believes that, I'm sorry, man. But you know what? Maybe you took that little yellow bus to school when you were. Come on.
This is why they love you.
Come on. I mean,
this is why they love the Philly Godfather, because he speaks them right from the Guyans.
Yeah.
That's why this guy, they love you, man, because you know what? Hey, remember something. If they don't hate you, you're not doing it right. Always remember that. Tell the folks how they can find you, my friend.
Find me on Twitter at Philly Godfather. Stop by the phillygodfather.com. Every Friday on the best show on the planet, Dan Sileo's show. And I'm just here to make you guys money. Love me or hate me. The bottom line is I get you paid, bro. And that's it.
Absolutely. Philly Godfather, it is always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Make sure you check him out. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. That's my good friend, Philly Godfather. Hit the like button. Keep it here. National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Man, they're going to name the football field at Bryant-Denny Stadium Nick Sabin Field. You're not going to name it after Coach Bryant. Well, Bryant-Denny, the stadium's named after him. Nick's a better coach than Bear Bryant. More to deal with today. Social media, money, recruiting. He's a better coach. He had more impact in the game than what Bear Bryant did. And Bryant, in my opinion, is top 3 greatest coaches of all time. So, I mean, but that's pretty cool. Nick Saban again. So I think if I'm not mistaken, it went Toledo. Then he got the job with Belichick with the Browns. Then he went to Michigan State, got that gig. Then he went to LSU. Then he went to the Dolphins. Then he went to Alabama. I think that's how that went for his career. Absolutely fantastic career that he had. And I'm looking forward to seeing him as an analyst on game day this year too. So that's pretty cool honor that he's getting. How about this for the Broncos quarterback chase this year for Sean Payton? Here's their quarterback battle. Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and Jarrett Stidham. You feel comfortable going into that battle in training camp with Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and Jarrett Stidham? Sean Payton is either going to be the coach people think he is, or he's going to be exposed for the coach he isn't. Because if you guys want to throw that tag around Bill Belichick, well, he only had Brady. Well, help me out if I'm mistaken or missing something here. He had Drew Brees. What's he done without Drew Brees? Nothing. He's done nothing without him. So that's not very comforting. Okay. I do want to throw that. Hey, one more thing on that. The Athletic reporting, according to some of you guys in here, the greatest coach in Philadelphia Eagle history, the quarterback hates him. Jalen Hurts. There was a disconnect last year. And so what the organization did was they moved the head coach further away from Jalen. Can that relationship exist? Can that relationship exist? Can you have a relationship like that where the head coach has no job in that and the quarterback doesn't like the head coach? By the way, I don't think he doesn't like Nick as a man. I don't think he likes Nick as a head coach. So Nick has a problem with the quarter, or the problem. Well, there's an issue there somewhere. Serriani is far from the greatest coach in Eagle history. Why? Well, that's not what some people in here say. They'll tell you he's the best coach because he's got the best win percentage. That he's better than Vermeil, that he's better than Andy, and that he's better than Doug. And remember something, Doug and Andy both had 4-win seasons on their way out the door. So that kind of justifies to them why Nick is a better coach. They would take Nick over Andy Reid or Doug because he wins more. Is Jalen upset not using Sirianni's system or Sirianni himself? According to the Athletic, there was a disconnect a year ago between the two, and there was conversations, I'm assuming here in the offseason, need to get back to I don't know that. Okay? Sirianni is not the greatest coach, in my opinion, in Eagle history. No. If I were going to rank them, Tony, the greatest coaches in Philadelphia Eagle history, in my lifetime. I'm not going to go back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s. 1, 2, 3. How about we do 4? The Mount Rushmore of coaches, my Mount Rushmore for Eagle coaches. I'd put Andy Reid 1. I'd put Dick Vermeil. 2. I'd put Doug 3. And I would put Buddy Ryan. Here's why. Yeah, Forrest, Buddy 4th. Here's why. What you see today in Philadelphia is all because of what Andy set up. And all the things that you benefit from, including Howie Roseman, is because of what Andy Reid did and the setup that Andy Reid had. I think Dick Vermeil changed the culture of Philadelphia football and winning. And what he did with that football team in the 70s and then set that culture up. And the fans got even more. I think he was great for the fans. And Vermeil, obviously, look at the reclamation projects. Philadelphia, he turned around. He turned the Rams around. He turned Kansas City around. I mean, every place he went into, they were losing. And that's why his win percentage isn't that hot. Okay? Then I would put Doug, obviously, for what he did by winning the Super Bowl. I think that is important. And I would put Buddy Ryan in that conversation because Buddy Ryan, tell me this, was that not the most didn't you have the most fun of all time when Buddy was the head coach? The characters, the personalities, how everybody acted. That was just absolutely fantastic of a time. So it was exciting, Yale. Absolutely. It was exciting of a time. And that's why those would be my 4 coaches. Andy Reid, Dick Vermeil, Doug Peterson, and Buddy Ryan would be my 4 coaches that I would put on the Mount Rushmore, at least in my lifetime. I didn't think Ray was that bad, but Buddy, man, during that time when they had gangrene, they were just fantastic. Greatest defense in Eagle history is under Buddy Ryan. Absolutely, man. Okay? Absolutely. Hey, real quick before we end up closing shop for the weekend. Going into training camp, I would say this. Sills, do you think we are one of the hardest cities to play for how demanding we are? Not everyone is built for our city. Twiz. Absolutely. Because you know why? Twiz, you demand people to do their job. And sometimes the easiest things to do are not that easy to accomplish. I think actually it's the funnest city I've ever had a conversation. The majority of the people that watch our show are based in Philadelphia with the Eagles. And I absolutely like it. Again, there is no question about it. You got people who hate messengers. You got people who just want to be heard and seen. You got people who really want to talk some football. And you got folks who are really genuinely passionate about that team. And when you got passion, you know what you have sometimes? You got a bunch of people that expect you to play. You know, the things that I like about it is that you guys throw your love around every single player. And you're going to go, like, look at Jalen Hurts. You guys are going to go knee deep in with Jalen Hurts. Okay? Knee deep. knee deep, and love it. But when that guy starts to turn the other way, make no mistake about it, you guys turn on them guys, and that makes it hard because a lot of people can't deal with that kind of stuff. All right. Guys, you guys have been absolutely sensational. I so appreciate it. Philly fans, Yale, I think it's fantastic, man. Absolutely awesome. Every single person this week that came here, we so appreciate it. And thank you guys so much, man. God bless each and every single one of you. Xander, Big Joe, we thank you. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend. See you Monday, 2 to 6. By the way, 4 days out to the start of training camp. We are right here. We shall see you Monday, and we'll see you on the flip side.